I'm Thrash Bastard, and I never listen to none taken.
It's a very metal thrash intro right there. I like it.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, look forward to the Friday Headlines show with Young Thrash Lad as the guest. You'd know that if you were on the Patreon because the whole hidden track, he was there while we were figuring out how to fucking broadcast on Riverside, which is infinitely better than what we were using
It's
before.
so nice.
Yeah, the latency is completely gone, right?
Yeah, it's
so
beautiful.
it records locally for you, and then it like throws it up there at the end of the thing.
Yep.
Okay.
So you just have to hang on for like a minute after we're done, and not even a minute.
That's
like 30 seconds.
That's enough inside baseball.
Yeah.
I have a link in the chat right here at the top where it says show open. And I said, can we just talk about this? Can you open that up? Viewers, we're going to describe this to you. Don't worry.
Okay, it's loading. Hungry
What do you feel like
Howie's
you're looking at there?
It says a tie-dye pizza. It looks like...
Would you have described it as that? Like, why don't... I know what I would describe this as, and I'm afraid that... Because I heard this on that college football podcast that talks about college football as much as we talk about politics, basically. So, which is not to say as much as we claim to be. No. They talk about college football as much as we debate each other. That's what it is.
Ah, okay. Yes. Okay.
So I don't want to say what they said, but please, what does
it looks
this
like
look
a pizza that's gotten moldy. Like the middle looks like it got
from the center out, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. If I said it, I would have been copying them verbatim, 100%. So, what brand of pizza is this?
Hungry Howie's.
Hungry Howie's sells a tie-dye pizza, and there are all of the colors of tie-dye, not in the pattern that I would consider tie-dye.
No, it's like
they didn't like take the pizza, twist it up in a knot, and put a rubber band around it and hang it up to like.
No, they made it like a dartboard style version of tie-dye.
It does. There's like a blue center, then a green ring, then a yellow ring,
then a red
something
ring.
orange, red, and then crust. Right.
Right. Yeah.
This is, and it looks like it's made of glitter. Oh my God! A large cheese pizza with colorful edible glitter.
Well, apparently you were correct. It is made of glitter. That is gross. Why would anybody eat this? How much does it cost?
$11.99.
Oh, okay. They have a limited time flavored crust of dill pickle as well, if you wanted to, expand your horizons further.
Look, I'm not opposed to the dill pickle flavor, but when you put dill pickle on top of moldy pizza, it does not sound appetizing.
No, it really does not.
I mean, you'd have to be a very hungry Howie to be okay with that. I should share that for the viewers. Hold on here. How do I do that on this new platform? There, right here. Hungry Hours. Real quick, guys. There you go. Congrats.
Scroll down. You can see the dill pickle option. Oh, keep going. There it is.
Oh, yeah.
Limited time flavored crust. Dill pickle.
Limited time flavored crust. Ooh, butter cheese. Ooh, sesame crust. Okay, we're done. This is okay. All right. I should probably just play our opening sound if that's okay with you.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let me prepare to share it. So this is in another land. There is a TV show there where children are. Oh, it's made in Jamaica. So this is a Jamaican TV show where kids are asked to identify who the person is on the screen, and it's kind of like Family Feud style where they all huddle and they give an answer. Right?
Got it. Okay.
So you should probably give the real answer because once they say their name, I'm going to press this button. I'm going to hit that after they say their answer, and you'll know why. So if you know the answer, feel free to shout in, okay?
Okay. All right.
Look at the monitor and give the full name of this person.
Oh, it's Jason Statham.
Statham. Nobody calls him Jason Statham. People in England don't call him Jason Statham. Why do you insist on pronouncing everything weird with your wands and ones? God, it's Jason Statham. Yes, you're right. The Transporter and the Meg and Meg 2 fame. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Statham.
I don't know how you hit my button so well, Alan. Okay, so the kids are huddling.
Adolf Hitler. Don't let me in this damn house.
Should we hit record?
Yeah, 1, 2, 3.
Wow.
All right, you ready?
I am ready. Are you recording?
Yes. All right, well, you want to start a show?
Let's start a show.
That podcast is filling your head with garbage.
I got all the ways
ways, I just ain't got the means.
No offense taken there.
Well, it sounds like none taken.
Got all the blues, I just ain't got the green. I got ask your mama, she'll say the same thing. I got all the ways, I just ain't got the means.
Boom. Welcome. I forgot it's a Wednesday show. This isn't the long intro. It's episode number 409 of None Taken, the internet's only debate and current events show with your hosts, Dustin and Al. Two political nomads from two different worlds. Shout out to Reverend Peyton's Big Damn Band for use of their song Ways and Means for intro music. Thank you for joining us. The time of this recording, it is Tuesday, October 15th, 2024. Happy birthday to my brother Preston. Shit, I need to text him. It's not too late. It's a great day for America. We are two coastal elites coming to you from the shores of the mighty Cumberland in Madison, Tennessee, all the way to the Pacific waters of El Cerrito, California. Here to recap another. I feel like the levels are off. I'm sorry. The music is so quiet underneath my audio. I apologize. But here to recap another week of current events and sharing way too much of our tragic personal lives. Taking a sledgehammer to the culture war echo chambers. Do us a favor, subscribe so that we can continue to pay for this fine platform, which makes our video look great, but confuses the hell out of me with our audio chain. We'll get it fixed by next week, I promise. You can subscribe right now to the Patreon, where you can listen to us and Thrash go through a lot of topics that we just don't have time for, right? We don't have time for it, or it's too spicy for the big show. We give you a hidden track there because that way we keep this from being a 3.5-hour show every fucking week. That's really why. And some people like more podcasts, so you can get more podcasts there. Also, it tends to have a little bit more video element. We have a video stream there. But everybody that's on the Patreon also gets access to the private RSS feed. Is that what it's called, Alan?
Yep.
So the private RSS feed gets you all of our podcasts directly to your podcast player. And that way you get all of the hidden track and the regular show in an audio form as well. So if you are like me and you don't like watching video shows, because I don't, that's kind of why I stopped listening to Your Mom House, because it was your mom's house. It was so much video element. It was like, well,
right.
I'll watch it when I come home from work, but if I don't have time that week, and they were so niche with their stuff, like, we always kind of like have inside jokes and stuff.
Sure.
They would do that, but it all had to do with their videos, and it was like, well, okay, I guess I don't like your show anymore. That hurts. It's not what I meant, but you know what I mean. Head on over to Alan. There's a place where they can do that. It's called nonetakenpod.com, nonetakenpod.com to subscribe to the Patreon. It's only $3. It's a handful of bananas. Like, you can only hold so many bananas. Less than the amount of bananas you can hold will buy you a full month of None Taken. I feel like the banana metaphor doesn't really translate. I don't feel like people are like, well, I wasn't going to subscribe, but then I thought about it in terms of bananas. But guys, if you think about it, it's not that much money. It's $3. Forget about it. And,
I like the banana analogy. It's quirky.
Well, and like I have a lot. I'm on Patreon, and most of the things I subscribe to on Patreon, I don't even listen to. I just like it because I like the show. So if you're like that, well, it's $3. Throw some scratch at us. It's helping us pay for this fancy platform that we're using to record this. So we would really appreciate that, because I know a lot of podcasts are like, look, it costs us a lot of server. Servers cost money, and that's why our podcast needs you to pay for it. We're kind of at that point now where we're paying for things. So like, if you could give us $3, it would actually go a long way. We don't like, I have not touched that fucking money. At some point I'll be like, yeah, all this money's going towards this server stuff. Or what did I say? Audio platform. Yeah. I mean, I paid for a year of this platform because they don't do a month-to-month one. So all of a sudden I'm like, I should probably get into that Patreon account and transfer that into my bank account. But anyways, I don't, does that sound negative? I mean, I don't mean to come across negative.
Nonetakenpod.com, ladies and gentlemen. Go there, get your Patreon subscription.
No, so it did sound negative.
No, it's fine. It's fine. You can also get other stuff at nonetakenpod.com. We have a merch store over there. You can buy some cool hoodies, some cool hats, some t-shirts, mugs. You can buy your all of your family's Christmas gifts can come from nonetakenpod.com. All right. Also, don't forget to support the people that support us. slickestdigital.com for all your SEO and marketing needs. Slickestdigital.com.
Hell yeah.
Hell
I'm
yeah.
on the wrong page. I'm on page for 406, 405. I should close that. That's not helpful to have open.
That is not helpful at all, Dustin. What is up, everybody? Welcome to the show. Hope you all are having a great week. I'm having a pretty good week out here. It cooled down, so it's feeling more like fall, which I love. I hung out yesterday with Tim and his girl. We went out to Ghost Town in Oakland, and just kind of,
like
that's a brewery.
Yeah,
it's a brewery. So they have a couple different locations, but we went to the Laura one, which is nice and cozy. Have a little outdoor patio. Just hung out, and it was nice, man. Just had a few beers and talked. We were planning to watch the game, but they didn't have it on, so we just watched it on Tim's phone for a while. But
the Niners or what?
No, whatever the Monday night game was, I wasn't paying attention at all.
Oh yeah. Oh, America was dying to watch the Jets versus the Bills.
Right. That's why I wasn't. That's why I didn't care. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, none of my fantasy players were playing. I don't think so.
There you go. I do not regret punching out a fantasy football 10 years ago.
It's been a rough year.
I'd have to give a shit about the Jets versus the Bills.
Yeah.
I don't know what I was up to. I didn't write anything down. I know we had a pretty decent little weekend, but we mostly stayed in because we are going to San Diego, not tomorrow. Tomorrow when you're listening to this. So I will be in San Diego if you're in San Diego or the Southern California area, join us in La Jolla this weekend for the San Diego Spirits Festival. Tickets are available at the door, where you will see me and Natasha taking tickets and me nervously putting a wristband around people so that I don't catch their arm hair in it,
that sucks. I hate it when that happens.
I'm not good at it. I'm really not good at it.
Well, I feel like most people that do that don't give a shit. So at least that you care about it. That's.
Oh yeah,
good.
I care a lot about it. Yeah, 'cause I don't like that. Yeah. Plus, I have to touch people, and it's weird. But come on down. Let me touch your wrist. So San Diego Spirits Festival. It's hundreds of alcohol vendors and alcohol-related vendors. So mixers, spirits. There's some non-alcoholics. Non-alcoholic beverages. It's a great time. It's on the water.
Alcoholics, though. But
yes, there will be a few non-alcoholics. But yeah, so we go down there. Her parents fly us out. They put us up, and in exchange for that, I'm going to be building like stages and tents.
Oh, fun.
And things like that. It's a lot of fun. Last year, I had an engagement ring in my pocket while I was doing this whole thing. No, it was in my backpack. And her dad was like, "You just set your backpack down?" I'm like, "Not on your life. Like, not on anyone's life in this building." Like, he's like, "Why?" I'm like, "Don't fucking make me answer that question. Please stop asking." Yeah. I don't have anything going on in my personal life other than that's what's coming up. But the joy of that is going to bring us our first guest host. No, you're the host. Alan will be hosting our Friday show as usual because he is the host of the Friday show. But we will have as a guest, young Thrash Lad to riff on the news headlines.
Yep.
And if you like that Patreon, you'll get even more of that. Our Patreon this week on the hidden track was Thrash. Did I make sense, Alan? I'm stammering.
Yeah, absolutely. So Thrash will be my headlines buddy on the Friday show for y'all. So he's got plenty to say. I'm sure it's going to be a fun show. I'm looking forward to it.
Speaking of young Thrash Lad, I have a little bit of news mixed in with our opening comedy clip. Thrash sent in this comedy clip that plays right after Donald Trump. I don't know why it starts with Trump.
Execute a drug dealer. Very quick trial, death penalty sentence for drug dealers.
This is really stupid. Drug dealers aren't afraid to die. They're already killing each other every day on the streets, drive-bys, gang shootings. They're not afraid to die. Death penalty doesn't mean anything unless you use it on people who are afraid to die. Like the bankers who launder the drug money. Forget the dealers. You want to slow down that drug traffic, you got to start executing a few of these bankers. White, middle-class, Republican banker. And I'll guarantee you one thing. You start nailing one white banker per week to a big wooden cross on national TV, you're going to slow down pretty quick. Pretty quick. You won't even be able to buy drugs in schools and prisons anymore.
So this is pretty good because at the end of last week, who are they called? What's the name of this? The department, the DOJ. DOJ actually already got a settlement out of TD Bank for like $675 million in laundered money, like drug dealer money. Did you listen to the lawfare about that?
I didn't. I thought you were going to say they were murdering people. I thought DOJ was like, yes, we're going to murder bankers, and that's what we're going to. We followed
Well,
Carlin plan.
It was like right up to the edge of it, you know, like yeah. Me and the boys. If I wasn't so confused with all the audio adjustments I've had to make, I'd be playing the Me and the Boys clip. Let's do this one. You know what? Speaking of murdering people, how about people that don't deserve it? This is Zoltan Comedy. We like this guy. We've played him here before. Zoltin Comedy. He's talking about Michigan's most confusing road sign, and I will say he's wrong. The most confusing road sign in Michigan is their left turn sign. I'll talk about that more after the clip.
They have a street sign that I don't think you know that other places don't have. But you have if you hit a road worker, it's $7,500. Which, if you grew up here, I'm sure you're like, what? But for people from other places, that's a jarring sign to see. You know, you're just like, you know, you're weary from the flight, and you're like, oh, wow. It's like everybody's life has value, you know? But I don't think at any time we should know exactly how much. Especially when you're at work. You're out there doing it and you just look up and you're like, oh, yeah. How'd you guys get that number, too? That 75, like politicians must have talked about it. Big roundtable discussion. Someone's like, all right, what should this cost? 20 grand. And you're like, in this economy? Let's not price us out of hitting a road worker. Let's get it somewhere reasonable. They did add on like 15 years, I think, in jail. It's like 70, but that should be first. I don't know, whatever. Things that used to just be 7,500. And people are like, I've been saving. Like, and then they're like, all right, add some years. People aren't getting it.
This guy's young, man. Like this guy, I'm so confused with my buttons. I'm sorry. I know we're supposed to play Taylor Swift or Kamala Harris laughing, but we'll move on. This guy's young. I'm really optimistic about seeing more of him in our comedic future. You know,
he's very funny. I feel like if it was just the $7,500 and no jail time, Elon Musk would definitely deploy self-driving cars in Michigan. Like that would, I mean, that's like, ideal. We could afford that, no problem. Just do it for fun. Fuck.
I wasn't prepared for the Elon Musk insight. Oh, yes, that was great. Thrash also sent this one in. This is who is this? Oh, this guy's a naughty boy. This is Ryan Long Comedy. He's usually here to offend people. I don't think so much in this one. I think this is very reasonable and logical thought about how being gay hopefully is a choice.
Oh, I don't think being gay is a choice. Being really gay, probably a bit of a choice, but I hope that's your choice. To wear the shirt that says I'm a slave. You're not waking up every morning. Why do I have to do this? No, I don't.
Okay, good. That was it. Okay.
Hey, you found the board.
I did. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So did we just end all our comedy clips with? That's fine. And I just try to keep it light. Just keep it moving on. This is a clip from Josh. Felina's Josh sent this in. This is about well, you can't be dating alcoholic women.
Oh. Are you presenting?
I'm not presenting.
No.
It says I am. Oh. Yeah, it says I am. How's that?
Oh, now I see it. Yes.
It said I was the whole time, though.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I learned I can't hit on alcohol. I can't. One girl, she almost drank me into poverty. Y'all laughing. We were at the bar. She was like, hey, Dan, another round. I was like, bitch, I work at Target. I'm like $15 an hour. Whole date, I was on my phone. She's like, what are you texting other women? I'm like, no, I'm texting Bank of America right now. I'm like, y'all don't see any suspicious activity? Y'all just gonna let me do this? Y'all not gonna freeze my account? looking at the bartender like, cut us off. Get hit on.
Sorry. Okay, good. Oh, here. You like this?
Continue to create calm.
Oh, wait, Walt.
Come on.
Come on.
Come on.
Okay, let's move on seamlessly to our
How about that?
segment. And it's the triumphant return on the main show of homoerotic football clips.
Ah, yes.
So
Our
there's
favorite.
one in every game. Like, I could make a whole show out of this. NASCOM should just do a football one. This happened during the Oklahoma's embarrassing loss to Texas. I don't want to talk about it, Alan. There's one like this, just like this in every game. They're so blatant. Listen to this.
Viewers, launches. Again, it's Gunnar Helm wide open. The tight end leaked down to the backside.
Come on. Did you miss it? Let me turn the volume down. That was a little much here.
It was a lot.
The tight end leaked down to the backside.
Speaking of which,
Guess what?
what do you think leaked out of the backside, Alan? You know what I mean? Yeah. All right. All right.
Yeah, I got it.
I got some bow hunting tips that Way sent in.
Okay.
This is a good one. This is a good clip Way sent in about bow hunting advice.
Today, you're going to learn how to shoot a bow better than your friends. So grab a shaft and check out my tips. To get reliable penetration with a tip, make sure you don't grip it too tightly. You want to have a consistent rhythm that you can get into. Let's talk about fingering.
Sure.
I recommend using 3 fingers. Some cultures might use 2 or even 4, but it depends on your hole technique.
3's a lot.
Hitting that same spot over and over again, well, you know you're doing it right. So if it's a little boring hitting the front side every time, don't be afraid to flip it around and hit it from the back. Also, pulling out at a weird angle, you might damage your shaft. And remember,
Don't do that.
Protection to prolong sessions and reduce irritation and inflammation. And lastly, it's really important to always remember where you're finishing. Thanks for checking out my tips.
Oh, how about that?
Right.
That's useful information.
Sounded sexual. I'm not going to lie. Speaking of which, we are going to get a little controversial here. Love this guy. This is Gino the Ghost. He is the best kind of offensive. He's like our type of offensive. Like, come on, you be mad at me? It's just little old me, right? So he's there is conflict in the, I'm gonna say in the trans community because it's expanded beyond that though. So the anti-trans and trans community, and then honestly, people who ain't got nothing to do with it are creating problems with it. You know what? I'll let him. He's already done the work to set it up. I'll let him.
All right.
You should be.
I might get canceled for this. Let's do it. Let's do it. 2 straight cis female OnlyFans models are going viral after cosplaying as trans girls to boost their OnlyFans numbers. Well, obviously, the trans community is up in arms over this. My gender is not your costume. Which kind of puts us in an interesting predicament, doesn't it? Because if you're following back at home, men who identify as women are mad at women who identify as women.
If you're following so far, get ready.
And pretending to be men who identify as women.
Remember that song, like boys who like girls, who like girls that like boys?
I'm afraid we're reaching levels of irony never before seen. South Park couldn't have even scripted this. I'm pro-trans. I'm an ally. But you got me. I got to be honest. I'm stumped on this one. It's a catch-22, isn't it? This is actually a new type of catch-22. It's a catch pen 15. We're seeing transphobia from the trans community, but also overly horny men who want to stick it to the trans community and are anti-trans are coming out in support of these girls and therefore are supporting the trans community and admitting they're attracted to trans women.
Was that guy in North Carolina?
Mark
What's his
Robinson?
Name? Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
How the turns have tabled.
Both sides are stuck. It's perfect. The universe, completely balanced. Both sides at a stalemate. I think we all learned a little bit about each other, didn't we? Maybe the trans was really just the trans we made along the way. I might get canceled for this.
That was a little stretch at the end there.
Wow.
How about that?
How about that, Alan?
How about that, indeed?
Yeah, indeed.
I was unaware
Any
of
thoughts?
this controversy.
Do you have any thoughts? What do you think about girls wearing a little packer inside their panties and pretending that it's a ding dong?
I mean,
does that do anything for you?
Oh,
What if they're now? I remember some of the things you've admitted on the show for. What if they were bratty while they did that?
Oh, that would be cool. That'd be fun.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be a good time.
Well, yeah.
I mean, the weekends.
I like open. Wait, did you say on the weekends?
I mean, the weekends you kind of just gotta let
Yeah.
whatever happens on the weekend. It's the weekend.
Well, feels like something there, but it moves around, so it's not real. Okay, I'll put my hand on that. Fine. Yeah. Well, this is fun. Let's see where this goes. I'm gonna skip this one. I had a clip of old dating shows just being super horny. Like, do you remember there was a show on? Because I used to watch Married with Children as a kid, and they would have ads for a show called Studs. Do you remember that? It was like a reverse dating show. It was like the dudes were up there instead of the girls being up there, which I feel like
maybe yeah.
It doesn't matter. When we were driving back from Knoxville, Natasha actually had brought this up. It wasn't like the first time she's thought of that or anybody's thought of that. In fact, it's kind of a common trope. The whole like, why do these trucks have to be so like big and so loud? Why do these fucking like straight high? There was a guy with a Camaro in front of us, a new Camaro too, the other day, going in like second gear, just going like 15 miles an hour. It was just like, your car shouldn't have to make that much noise to go slow. Like, you know what I mean? Like, like you should, like, it should be geared better to not, in my opinion. I mean, I do know enough about cars to feel like you're doing a dumb version of a cool car. You know what I mean?
For sure.
So, like, if anybody who's been around a truck or a car like that and just thought, what the fuck is wrong with these guys? Here's the answer.
Gays. Here's the deal with straight men and their loud cars, their straight pipe Subarus and the lifted trucks with their overfueled diesel pumps. That behavior has nothing to do with us. Those are patriotic men showing off for each other. So let those Dodge Ram drivers just have their little peacock fest. It's heterosexual flamboyance. Now, most of what you're seeing out there on the highway is rolling fashion. It's rolling drag queen culture for patriotic heterosexual men. The exact same fashion sense that goes on in drag culture goes on with patriotic American truck driving and loud sports cars. It's ta-da! Loud F-bodies and lifted trucks are hyper-masculine exaggeration of what a working class man is and does, in the same way that drag culture is a hyper-feminization of what a real woman looks like. Gays.
Do you think Loadmaster wants to be credited with sending that clip in? Well, his name, his identity is hidden. Thank you, Loadmaster, for sending that in.
I think that guy makes a lot of sense. I think, yeah.
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
Last clip of how about that? We've got some data about Gen Z in the workforce. So they've been doing this for long enough that they can actually, like, when it first started. Do you remember back in the old days when people were like, "These fucking millennials"? Am I right? Am I right, Alan?
I do.
And then everybody wised up to the fact that they were actually talking about themselves. They were like, "Oh,
that's us."
I didn't realize I was talking about somebody born in 1980. Okay. So then like a couple of years ago, they're like, these fucking Gen Zs, right? Mm-hmm. Well, data's kind of backing it up a little, but here, let's dive into it. This is the guy's citing a Fast Company article.
Shots are being fired at Gen Z again. Like literally they're actually being fired. A new report came out that had some crazy stats about Gen Z in the workforce. I want to share with you. 75% of companies report that some or all of the recent college graduates they hired were unsatisfactory. 75% of companies. 6 in 10 companies report firing a recent college graduate, and 9 in 10 hiring managers say recent college graduates should undergo etiquette training. Like they're a puppy or something. This is wild. And most common traits of Gen Z that the hiring managers think is they're offended easily, they are entitled, and they lack work ethic. So I'm not saying this is right or wrong. I'm just saying something is clearly broken between Gen Z and the workforce. And we actually just talked to our resident Gen Zer at Morning Brew, Macy Gilliam. Maybe you've heard of her. She's awesome. And she had some really good points, which is, one, Gen Z, for most of them, went through a significant portion of their kind of becoming an adult through a pandemic, which made them, I think, the loneliest generation.
This is almost 5 years ago, by the way.
Yeah.
Most isolated generation we've seen. And also at a time where they would be learning the skills that all of these hiring managers say they should have now. The second is work has fundamentally changed and people are coming in hybrid. People are coming in remote. I think onboarding practices and training practices need to get better with the time because the world is so different.
I don't remember how much more of this there is, but let's just pause there. And so what I liked about this clip is that it's not just shitting on Gen Z. It's saying that companies started onboarding people without having like a social and human interaction with them. And they're like, wow, can you believe these people they're all autistic? Like,
yeah. So there's a disconnect between the two workforces. I'd be curious to know, because he states statistics for 75% of companies say they're unhappy with some of their recently hired college graduates. That doesn't mean that much to me. I mean, that's not saying a lot. If you want to, maybe that might make more of an impact if it was compared to what it was 10 years ago. The companies agreed to this, what their rate of satisfaction was with new college graduates. I think there's always going to be some people that are not going to work out. That's just the nature of things. So I don't know if that number means a lot in the way he's saying it, at least.
Right. Like what is the older statistic, right?
Right.
Yeah. What's this in comparison to? I bet there was always pretty high disappointment in that regard.
Sure.
And
at least some
we
percentage.
can sit back and blame Gen Z for it, but like it or not, they're the future of our workforce. And in some ways, it's on all of us. It's incumbent upon all of us to actually get training done right. And so I got mad love for Gen Z, mainly because I couldn't figure out this TikTok thing. And
he's just going to wrap the video up from there. But yeah, I think, button.
Oh, how about that?
Oh, how about that?
Yeah. I think intergenerational warfare is fun, but I think it's stupid. Like ultimately, there's going to be different people that are the next generation, and what's different about them might be catastrophic in your eyes. It's not going to change the fact that they're the next generation of people. Like, I mean, I guess you can put together some way to try to better interact and like mitigate the things you're seeing as deficiencies. But I think it largely comes down to just, norms changing, norms shifting, right? And the dominant culture not matching up to the new.
Right. I mean, and sometimes there are significant differences between generations. I mean, like our generation came up with the internet. The internet happened while we were kids and we sort of grew up with that. And then smartphones happened. And then now, this new current generation's grown up with social media as sort of so that is a very different sort of environment to grow up in than the previous generation had. And so there definitely are going to be, larger fissures, I think, between those two generations. But I think a lot of the generational stuff is bullshit. I think a lot of it doesn't really matter. But those are very specific things that happened to those generations that are very different from what happened before.
And it's going to make them behave differently and interact with each other differently based off the inputs that they had, right? Yeah.
Yes, that and the pandemic, like he said, dude, the pandemic is fucking, that's,
And that affected everybody else differently too, right?
Sure.
Like, yeah. So it affected the olds differently than it affected the youngs. And they're going to bring how it affected them into that relationship differently as well.
Yep. Absolutely.
I don't feel like we solved anything.
We didn't.
Okay.
We don't have to solve everything.
Isn't that something?
Segment. To start things off, I have a clip from the what do we call this? This is The Intelligence, the podcast, the Economist podcast, The Intelligence. Major space news over the weekend. Like, I love nerding out about cool spaceship, space shit. Although it is a spaceship. So I said it right the first time, but it wasn't the word I was intending for. How about I hit the clip?
Let's do that.
All right. This is the Intelligence talk.
Oh, it's not. I don't.
I didn't share it. Okay. It's okay. The first part wasn't quite to the clip. I should probably set it up better. So, do you want to talk about what happened? Like, set me up. What are we talking about?
So SpaceX had a recent success. They were able to fire off a rocket and then recapture the booster. It was pretty cool. If you haven't watched the video, I don't know where you've been because it's everywhere online, but they're going to talk a little bit about that, I imagine, in this clip.
They're going to talk about that. Actually, this clip is more about the future plans of it. So I'm glad we talked about the event. But the thing is, that was 4 days ago. Like, we all woke up on Sunday and went, whoa, that was cool. Because we've seen it land on the platform. And that was the cool thing, where it's coming in, it flips around, the retro rockets fire off, and it lands, which was amazing. But to land against a structure and have arms grab it, and then it reverse thrust to counter its weight until it's secured is just the engineering alone.
the first time I saw it, I was like, did they take that video and run it backwards? Because that couldn't possibly have happened.
It's what it looks like. It's exactly what it looks like.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's exactly how it worked too. Like, it was, a bunch of rockets and a few. Okay. Anyway. So this clip is talking about the future plans of SpaceX. And his intentions are always get to Mars, right?
Yeah.
I think this might cover more than that. It's only 30 seconds.
60 years. Elon Musk, the founder and CEO of SpaceX, wants to use them to push onwards towards Mars. For him, the moon is a sort of like paying gig from NASA, and that's nice, but Mars is where his attention is really focused when it's not focused on helping to elect Donald Trump or spreading misinformation on X, formerly Twitter.
Okay, lofty ambitions, but
formerly Twitter.
That's something. That is something.
A little bit of sauciness in there.
Their plans to have like refueling stations in space where they can refuel the rockets so we can go further. And
that's the whole point, right? Like this rocket can be reused, so it can be launched up there, put the refueling stations up there 100 times, so you got a huge fuel depot, right?
Yep. Yeah.
That's what you're talking about.
Yeah. So they're planning to use these rockets to go to the moon shortly, but
that's what they're talking about is the paying gig, right? Like now, that's what NASA's paying for is going to the moon. NASA's not really talking about them going to Mars.
But Musk wants to. He's saying 26 or 28, maybe.
Yeah. So there's planetary windows where the planets are alignment, so you can use like gravitational slingshots or whatever, right? Like if I'm using that right.
Yeah, there are planetary windows where you can have SpaceX. That's how that works.
Planetary windows for SpaceX 409.
He did that on purpose, right? When he called it SpaceX, he wanted you to think of course. That would be an Elon thing to do.
That's too many words. SpaceX. I'll come back to that. No, we'll spitball that one, Alan. So what was cool about this video is that it was a supersonic reentry, right?
Yeah.
Like that
you could hear the sonic booms as it was coming in.
As it was coming down, and then it fires off the rockets and stops in a matter of seconds, or slows down to non-supersonic speeds in a matter of seconds.
Like a Looney Tunes cartoon almost.
Dude, just science fiction. Like,
it's wild.
Part of me feels like we've become accustomed to this, but also part of me feels like I'm old and I've become accustomed to this. Are there young people that are like, what's even cool about this?
It's like mundane. Just
I hope not. Like, that was amazing, right?
It was,
like, to the extent that you're like, this guy's a cunt. Good job. Like, so like you said, he's shooting for 2026, maybe 2028.
Mm-hmm.
The ultimate promise he's settled on is sometime in the 2030s to have a lander on Mars. They're talking about doing drones with the same Falcon Heavy, but with drones doing it. But he'd like to have people by the 2030s. So the first ones will be drones going to Mars, and then it'd be people in the 2030s. There's a new space race, man.
It's really cool.
I mean, do you think China's not trying to do this?
Of course they are.
So, I mean, we got to get to Mars before China. Jesus.
Yeah, we got to
get to the moon first. Fuck's that going to matter? That was 60 years ago.
Yeah, it was.
Move on to the next subject.
I was talking to Drew earlier today about like what strange times we live in, and how AI is, potentially taking away all kinds of jobs and things like that. His brother's in computer engineering essentially. And so he was, talking to him about it. He's, are you concerned? He's not. But man, there is so much happening right now within.
His brother's not concerned about the job side of it.
Right, he's not because of his level. But there are people
personally not concerned.
Right, yeah. But there are people like coding. AI is like a force multiplier. It takes, if you're like 2x as a coder, then you partner with AI, and all of a sudden you're 20x or 30x your productivity. It's incredible.
That's
and
the
eventually,
promise, right?
What's that?
That's the promise, right?
No, it's already. I mean, maybe it's not 20, 30x, but it's already a huge multiplier of productivity. And so then you need less people to do that because you can.
And then we all get more leisure time.
No, that's not how it works, Dustin. It's never been how it's worked. But man, it is. In some instances, it's maybe a little bit scary time to be alive, but also you look at shit like fucking what they're doing at SpaceX, and you're like, God damn, that's
that wouldn't
incredible.
happen without AI, right? Like that, the engineering of being able to fire off all those rockets in that series just like that. I mean, that's got to be largely due to AI, right?
It's definitely compute, whether it's AI or not, I don't know, but it's definitely compute to be able to be that precise about the way they're doing it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Where are we at? Oh, I'm up in How About That? I started moving stuff around because I realized that we'll be heavy on the first half. I hate it when it's not a balanced show, perfectly balanced. Can we talk about Israel?
Sure.
So a source close to Bibi says that a series of responses will be how they retaliate to Israel's...
Iran.
Yep. That would make more sense. Yeah. So a source close to Bibi Netanyahu said that they are going to retaliate to Iran's ballistic missile attacks into Israel. Was at the end of last month, the beginning of this month, which in itself was in response to Israel attacking Iran proxies in Hezbollah and killing Hamas commander that was in Iran at the time, which in itself is a response to Iran backing Hamas on October 7th, which is a little reductionist, but I feel at least presents more.
I think
than
that flow chart works. Yeah.
When I listen to anti-war radio, he's like, so, Iran's just doing this. Israel's just doing this because Iran hit them, but Iran only hit them because Israel killed a bunch of Iranian people. It's like, is that the whole story? It's the whole story.
Yeah, there's a lot more there.
Yeah. Okay. So a source close to Bibi says that their response to Iran's attack last month is going to take place. Their response is going to take place prior to the U.S. election. The way it was worded is that there's going to be a series of responses. Bibi says that at least in the initial response, it's not going to be oil facilities and nuclear facilities, which I suppose is a good sign. Because if they hit the oil fields, first of all, China's over. Global energy prices spike all before the election. A series of conflicts that lead to a major shift in the dynamics of the Middle East. It's not going to be. It might be interesting, but it's not going to be pleasant, right?
No, that would be a massive shift. Huge red line.
If I was Israel, I'd probably want to hit their oil fields, though, right?
I mean, if you're just war gaming, sure, yeah.
So all of those promises of hey, I'm not going to hit their oil fields, is what led to, in a phone call either last week or earlier this week, between Bibi and Biden, led to Biden saying, okay, we'll go ahead and approve a THAAD, which we'll talk about in this clip, a THAAD missile defense system being sent to Israel.
Help out the Iron Dome.
To supplement Iron Dome.
Right.
Which is going to require American troops to be there to operate and assist.
Yes.
Okay. Setup. Here's the clip. Ryan Macbeth. We love Ryan Macbeth here.
THAAD, or Terminal.
That is loud.
That is really loud.
High Altitude Air Defense System is being sent to Israel.
THAAD stands for Terminal High Altitude Air Defense.
Yes, it will be crewed by Americans, and yes, it could place Americans in danger. But one of my viewers asked me, how would the THAAD system defeat drones? Think of air defense as layers. So I drew this diagram
Onions have layers.
to illustrate. Here are the Jews, and our mission is to protect their weather machine. Iron Dome is very short range. David's Sling is medium range. Patriot is medium to long range and almost reaches up into space. Israeli systems like Arrow 3 or the American THAAD can reach up into space and intercept theater ballistic missiles. Long-range systems like Patriot, Arrow, and THAAD are strategic systems that are typically protected by short-range weapons, like the Stinger missile. These short-range assets aren't organic to Patriot and THAAD, but they are attached as needed to protect against asymmetric threats.
I mostly just wanted to play this clip because of the part where he says that we want to protect their weather control system.
That was pretty good.
Isn't that something?
So the fact that we are sending that THAAD system there means that Americans will be on the ground. It is protecting against ballistic missiles, which is what Iran is now choosing to include in their missile barrage that they send.
The last attack included ballistic missiles, yes.
Prior to that, they were not ballistic missiles, which means, as an ally to Israel, we felt obliged to give them better missile defense. Checks out. Okay. So people like Dave DeCamp over at Anti-War and a certain individual in our group chat was saying like, oh, well, those troops assisting the THAAD are now targets to an Iranian response to, meaning now Americans are directly in danger, right?
Yes.
To which I would quote Loadmaster, then it's a good thing they have a THAAD there.
Yes.
So like if the whole issue is they're going to hit them with ballistic missiles, it's a good thing they have a ballistic missile defense system.
That does seem like a good idea. Yeah.
Does kind of.
I guess technically there have already been American personnel in danger because of the naval assets we have there, but this is definitely more on the ground for sure.
More on the ground. Did you see that Biden told Iran if they assassinate Trump, it'll be an act of war?
I don't think I caught that. No.
I feel like that doesn't have to be said. Hey, if
I was going to say that
seems former presidents.
Yeah, I don't think you need to say that. I think you can just leave
and
that.
When you do say it, doesn't that now create an equation of, hey, anyone, hypothetical, wink, wink, if you make it look like Trump was assassinated by Iran, the U.S. will go to war with Iran. Now, I'm going to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Can you think of any governments in the world that would like the U.S. to fight Iran for them?
I
can have a history of false flag operations against America.
I definitely can. Pick me.
Okay.
I can.
Okay, Alan?
Israel, Mossad.
It rhymes with Israel. Yeah, it does. Right? Yeah. So great job, Joe Biden. Jesus Christ, old man.
Fucking A.
Isn't that something?
That is something. That is something.
I have another update from Woodward's book. Last week we talked about like the brief little pieces of information, snippets that had come out in because it came out the day we were recording last week.
Yeah,
so that's where can you talk about some of the things that found out while I get the clip loaded?
Yeah, the Putin COVID test that Trump sent to him and told him
he's had like 7 phone calls with Putin since then.
Post presidency, and then when he sent him the test, he was like, "Don't tell anybody; they'll be mad."
And not just that too, right? It was the fact that like Biden had said like he fucking hates that he picked Merrick Garland and that like he's never gonna not prosecute his son. He motherfucked Bibi on those interviews as well. Which Bibi deserves. But I feel like people made like that was a big deal with our foreign relations with Israel. It's like I'm pretty sure Bibi knows how Joe Biden feels about.
I don't think there's no love lost.
He's used to being motherfucked. Like even like his best friends probably think he's a prick. He's Tony Soprano, like
absolutely.
Yeah. By the way, is Tony Soprano? He does. Is Tony Soprano? He does lean into it. I want to ask this question anyways. Is Tony Soprano an example of the Peter Principle?
Oh,
because he ran a good crew, right?
Yeah,
and then he got promoted. Yeah, and then everything fell apart.
Everything went wrong.
Yeah.
I think maybe he is. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to play this clip, which means I have to turn this down. So I don't want to turn you down while I do that because I only have one volume knob. This is Bob Woodward talking about details of behind the scenes conversations. There was a thing that came out where the DOJ or the State Department or the White House, maybe, I don't remember, said that they felt it was a 50-50 chance that Putin was going to use battlefield nukes.
Mm-hmm.
And this is Woodward talking about the details of the conversations that he was able to get firsthand accounts for and transcripts of conversations so that he could cite it in the book.
You have Biden on the phone with Xi in China trying to avert this war.
Not just Putin and Zelensky. It was President Xi of China trying to get him involved, saying like, hey, don't let your buddy fucking do this.
To get him to deliver the message to Putin, no tactical nuclear weapons in Ukraine. What you see Biden doing to get the message to Putin, including picking up the phone himself and calling Putin, telling him not to do it.
Probably one of the last phone calls they had together, right? Because everything we understand is that those lines are closed, right?
It seems that way, yes.
Lloyd Austin, defense secretary, repeatedly on the phone with his counterpart in Russia, including getting to a point where he said, the Russian says to him, I don't like to be threatened. And he says, I'm the leader of the most powerful military in the world. I don't threaten.
Isn't that I love that.
Yes.
That was like big swinging dicks. Like that's Toby Keith right there, right? Like you read that quote.
Yeah, you want your Secretary of Defense to say that. That's
So the guy in Russia was like, it sounds like you're being very threatening to me. He's like, I'm the leader Like, I'm the guy with all of this. Like,
Yeah,
I'm not
I don't-
making threats.
I don't make threats.
Yeah.
I just said
You'll
if you do
know
the thing
when I'm threatening you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Stunning moment. I was able to get the verbatim account of what happened. And just to maybe disclose more than I should, I took this to Austin, as you would as a reporter. And I didn't tell him I had this, and I started reading, and he said, "It's accurate. It's accurate." The portrait of Lloyd Austin is very strong in this book, because he is somebody who is not going to be pushed around and is very forceful with his counterpart in Russia, Shogu, and gets him on the phone. And I think a scene that should be printed out and posted on the Oval Office wall, because what Austin says, we know you're planning to use a tactical nuclear weapon. Don't. This will be the consequences. This will change the world. Don't do it. And it's a very eloquent account of consequence and impact. And at least for the moment, he has not used a tactical nuclear weapon. Putin has not.
It's true. Yeah, and at the time, I mean, concerns were that he would maybe even use them to attack the Zaporizhia nuclear facility or Chernobyl or whatever, right? And just cause a horrible nuclear catastrophe in the whole region.
Yeah, it was. Everybody was talking about it. With the winds, they're going to blow it back into Russia, and it was a whole thing. But it seemed almost like a fait accompli that it was going to happen. At some points. But it never did.
Especially we find out now it's 50-50,
Yeah. Those aren't good odds.
So it gets you a little nervous to think about. So when we think about Sleepy Joe and him being incompetent and this old man, right? And to paint that picture a little bit better of. So, okay, I heard this on Bob Seska's show, so I want to give him credit for it. Competence and charisma aren't usually packaged in the same
that's true.
package. You know, so that depending on your political preferences, you might think that. I don't find Trump to be very competent. I think he's very charismatic. I don't like the guy, but he's charismatic. He's clumsy with his charisma, but he's charismatic. You have to admit he's charming.
Right. It's funny. He came. I said I was talking to Drew earlier, and he goes, "I was watching the Vince McMahon documentary on Netflix, and
I wanted to watch it. Natasha almost wanted to watch it. She's like, if it was just an hour and a half, we'd watch it, but it's multi-part. She's like, no,
yeah, I haven't seen it yet either. But he said Trump. I guess there's a part where Trump comes into that.
Yeah, because he's in the Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Yeah, of course. And he goes, "Dude, I realized Trump's just a pro wrestler." And I was like, "Kinda, yeah, that's kind of."
Even saying that. Yes. I'm so hungry. I can smell Natasha's cooking, and it's making me fussy on the show. I'm not going to yell at our friends about that. You have to listen to every second of None Taken to know every time that we've said things like that. Other things that came out from this book were that Woodward was at one of these elitist cocktail parties in DC or something, and I think it was Milley, the former, or no, Mattis, I think, came up to him and was like, "Hey, listen here." I want this to be on the record. Trump's a fascist, and I wish I realized that earlier.
I hadn't heard that one. Damn.
It wasn't Mattis. It was Milley was hired by Trump too, right?
Milley was.
I always want to call him Miley because of that time Rudy called him Miley.
Oh,
well, Rudy called him Miley, and I was like, it's Milley, right?
It's Milley.
Anyway, all right, that's it for that book. I don't think I'm going to listen to that book or read that book. You talked about how we were listening to a podcast where they talked about how listening to audiobooks, it taps into. Can you talk about that? Well, this next clip lined up.
Yeah, it was. I can't remember his name. He was on the Lex Friedman podcast, and he was talking. So Lex at one point was kind of like they were talking about reading books because the guy was like, reading books is like the most important thing that you can do as a young person to sort of expand your mind. And Lex was like, I listen to a lot of audiobooks and I feel bad, like I'm sort of cheating the system as opposed to actually having a physical book in my hand, because I understand that there is something to having that physical object that you have in front of you when you're reading. And his guest was like, that's true. However, for millennia before we had, books.
Some people didn't have that one.
Yeah, most of the way we transmitted information was orally, oral histories.
I'll say it, Alan. What were you gonna say?
Oral transmission. So don't feel bad about it. That's like a part. That's a part of like the base of your brain. Like people have been, transmitting information by speaking for our entire history.
It's totally changed because I felt the same way that he was describing it, right? Like,
So did I.
I think we talked about this on the show, but it's like that was very satisfying to be like, yeah, you're right. It's a newer part of our brain that's been wired to read and translate that into the little voice in our head that talks the book into our ears, right?
Right.
I think you find these people that don't have the voice in their ear, and that's fucking weird too.
That's weird.
I wrote down oral transmission. I
like that.
In the clubhouse. I have a clip I want to play from the New York Times. I think it was yesterday's. Yeah, yesterday's New York Times was talking about inside the Secret Service.
Dude, this episode just made me sad. Like I was like, God damn it, dude.
It
sucks.
did. Especially when it went back to like the site, the event that they keep referring to is like the 2014 event where the guy jumped the fence and like
the White House
and broke into the White House. And Joe Rogan was talking about that at the time. How he's like, and guess who? He broke in the back door and there was a woman guarding the back door and he overpowered her.
Oh,
and
I remember that. I forgot about that.
And who was the bumbling buffoon at Trump's first assassination attempt? That woman being like, where's my gun go? Is it out already? I don't know. Is it in my pocket? Anyway,
I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah, this was really frustrating though, because it's way beyond just like some incompetent people. It's
this is like rot at the core.
Layered failures of bureaucracy, right?
Yes.
And like I don't know if it's in this clip. He talks about the how it went from being a part of the Treasury and being top dog at the Treasury and being part of Homeland Security, which was invented after 9/11 to bring all of the intelligence and defense stuff under one house, right?
Yes.
But once it's under one house, they compete over a budget.
And they're
when
primarily
competing over a
focused
budget
on
with
the
FBI and CIA and all these people that are going to war and stuff like that, they're like, well, I'm sure the president's security force is fine.
Well, and they're
can't
focused on the
justify
border.
it.
Yeah.
Also, yes, right. Yep. A lot of that money from Homeland Security was focused on that. That was the answer. And it's not, when we live in an age of nobody's tried to kill the president since Reagan, you just are like, why would we give you a bigger budget? You deal with what you've had. But also you have a time period where presidents like the last one have family members that require special details, and more and more it just dilutes the ability to actually staff that.
And they're traveling internationally.
And properly trained. Okay, here's the clip.
Yeah.
I waited too long.
Presumably, it takes a very long time to train and vet these agents. So why wouldn't you just rehire people who already know how to do the job?
So part of the issue was people had retired, right? And they're like, a lot of people retired early.
Yes.
So they're like, well, if we need to rehire people, why don't we rehire people? If we need to hire people, why don't we rehire people that have already gone through training? There's a little bit of a Cobra problem here where their solution to getting, here.
Right. And it seemed like a smart plan, but in fact, what they found was that they were offering agents that you could keep your pension and you could come back and get paid to do the job. And that was such an attractive thing that they started to incentivize people to retire early.
So this program that was intended to get more agents into the field was actually kind of backfiring and encouraging agents to retire early, it sounds like. So essentially, the agency is shooting itself in the foot here.
That's a funny choice of words.
Right. And not only that, but once these retired agents came back, they knew a bunch of former friends who were now their bosses, and they were.
Because you think about it, when normally you get hired, you don't know your boss. You go through the process. You're the peon.
Right.
You have
to build a relationship. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But instead, they're like, "Come on, man. You got somebody that could be in that office next to my house. Maybe I can have a cushy desk
giving
job."
them desk jobs pretty far away from the task of protecting the president.
One of the examples they gave was some guy painting a wall and being probably the most expensive painter
in the government
staffing.
Yeah.
Some of
but
the
you
details.
can imagine. You can imagine the incentives as a Secret Service employee of, look, I can retire early, I can get my pension, and then essentially double dip where I'm getting my pension plus I'm
moonlight as my old job.
Right. And my buddy will be my boss. He's cool. Like he'll, I'll just, I'll bring him coffee and, maybe, bring
and
him
these
lunch.
are supposed to be like in our mind, the best of,
right.
these law enforcement bodyguards. Right.
So that is one side of it, but the other side of it is that being a Secret Service agent can be a really shitty job. Once you max out
your guy in the cargo hold.
yeah, with the president's limo was strapped above where he was sleeping, and once you max out your OT, you're basically working for free. I mean, there's for the lower end Secret Service agents, it's a really shitty job, man. And it's unpredictable. Your hours are all over the place. You might be going to.
But these are the people we always like. We envision them as people in it for the love of the game, right? Like these are patriots.
We do
that want to take a bullet for the Brits.
But
They're thirsty for bullets.
I also envisioned that that's a very dangerous, difficult job. I always envisioned that you fucking get paid for it.
I know. Yeah.
That's a part that blew my mind, especially like the president's got to know I'm relying on these people for my security, for my life, for my family's security. I would want to make sure that they get paid. Like, I don't understand how that happens.
The training was dog shit. Like, they don't even have a mock White House. Did you remember what they said they used for a mock White House?
They used Tyler Perry had built something for a set for a movie, and they used that in Atlanta.
Down in Atlanta. Yeah, they've used I guess they've been trying to build that for over a decade since that guy jumped the fence in 2010, and they just can't find the money.
What the fuck, man?
Yeah, this is all just an inside ploy by Secret Service agents to get funding. That's why they keep finding these people at Coachella. We'll talk about Coachella in a second. One of the other things that was really outrageous that came from that was that the head of the uniform division of the Secret Service was also a real estate agent. And according to Real Estate Transactions, it really became apparent that the best way to get
cushy jobs promoted, whatever,
was to buy a house from him.
Yep.
Dude, that's Soviet shit.
And people at the Secret Service say that they brought these concerns to the IG and nothing was ever done. So
I say Soviet shit. That's modern Russia shit.
That really is.
Yeah.
That really is.
That's corruption and bureaucracy and bullshit. It feels like it's good news because that's a fixable problem.
Yeah, and I feel like there's this has gone under the radar for decades, right? This is the first.
But like that
I've
problem
heard
we just described sounds fixable.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I guess like the bad news is that it's a bureaucracy, and that bureaucracy as a way of power has power, and there's layers to this shit. Power protects power, and there's layers to this shit. Let's talk a little bit about. Oh, go ahead.
You and I have both worked in organizations where it was very clear that the way to get to move up was not just to be good at your job. It was political, right? And that's kind of it varies on the scale of different companies have different cultures, but it's kind of always there in the background. This is just like
that's human nature, right?
Right. This is like a whole other level, man. I'd never heard of anything like this.
And to see this kind of a failure from like arguably the most important position in law enforcement in terms of the government's opinion.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, it is fixable though. So like, I do feel optimistic that this will be resolved. It's just going to take a lot of money and probably not happen as quickly as it should.
I mean, but a lot of money subjectively it's not a lot of money. I mean, when you talk about a federal government that has the kind of budget that our federal government has, the amount of money that would take to make the Secret Service like actually function properly, it's a drop in the bucket compared to what the rest of the budget.
It's nothing about like a supplemental bill to get something over to Israel or Ukraine or Taiwan, right?
Yeah. For sure. Yeah.
Can we talk about what happened in Coachella?
Yeah, there was a cool concert I heard.
So I'm so pissed off that we didn't record yesterday because I've seen other people summarize this in ways that right after they shared it with me, like in the group chat, somebody was like, "This is a cool video." I was like, "I'm going to give you a screenshot of our fucking show sheet so you can see that I have notes in here to say exactly what this bitch already said. I'm going to do it anyways, but I have like, I felt like I was going to come on here. I was going to clip this out. We were going to get famous, Alan. So the Riverside sheriff said that he stopped a third Trump shooter at Trump's rally in Coachella. It's worth pointing out when you say Coachella, you think Coachella is like the field where they have the festival. Coachella is an area. Right,
it's a place.
So he had a rally in Coachella. It wasn't 100,000 people. It was probably 20,000 or something. It's a good number. It's a good number, right?
It was a wowie.
There's a wowie. I don't trust all my buttons right now. So Was this off your radar, or you like was this on your radar and then it fell off because appropriately it wasn't that big of a deal?
Yeah, so I don't want to spoil anything, so I won't say more. But yeah.
So this guy, his name, it's escaping me. It'll come up here at some point. It's like Vim Miller. I think it's Vim Miller. So he's a failed politician. He was he ran for like a councilman position, or maybe even had it and lost it. He's a Vegas resident. He's one of these sovereign citizens, which I sympathize with. I think that they go a little too far. Like, they take things that I'm sympathetic with, and I'm like, oh, you're so.
That's putting it lightly, Dustin. But yeah,
but
it's a little too far. A little too far.
They're sympathetic with my priors, or my priors are sympathetic to their cause. Like I get them, but like they go a little too far. So the guy had homemade license plates for his car because he's the sovereign citizen.
Because you do.
Yeah, I mean, I got to put something there, but obviously, you ain't got no authority over me, bitch.
It's a bespoke license plate. I got it from
a bespoke license plate. He had multiple. He had multiple passports, multiple IDs. All of them were, in the eyes of the government, fake. How about that? Okay, no, how about that?
Oh, how about that?
How about that?
He is. So. Do you want to talk about him a little bit more before I start playing a clip, sort of elaborating on who he is? I'm okay with you talking about it. I'm not afraid of you spoiling.
So as I understand it, he actually is a Trump fan, and he was very surprised to have been
that set this up really well.
Arrested. Okay,
keep going.
Oh, he was very surprised to be arrested.
He said he was invited. He said he was a guest.
Right. And he was armed.
Yes. Yeah.
But
of course.
As it turns out, it doesn't seem like he was a threat at all.
No, and that's where we're going with all of this. Yeah.
Right.
So this is a clip that is him and Ivan Raiklin in a car. Alan, who's Ivan Raiklin? I'm curious if you use the same description for him that I want to use.
Ivan Raiklin is a Alex Jones guest.
Yep.
That's the best.
He believes he's going to hold a secretary position in Trump's cabinet. And what's this position?
Secretary of Retribution, is that what it is?
Nailed it.
Yes.
Yeah, buddy. Yes. You know what? We had a lot of like issues with our audio chain, and we had I think we had a spicy weekend conversation.
It was, we did.
I had a moment where I was like, I feel like me and Alan aren't getting along, and it's probably my fault. And you know what it was? We didn't do our Friday show. I haven't vibed with you and as frequently as we normally have. Yeah, like when I I throw it up there and you fucking hit it out of the park like that. Yeah, exactly.
Hell yeah.
Exactly. All right. So here is Ivan Raiklin, Trump's Secretary of Retribution, or at least that's who Ivan Raiklin thinks he's going to be.
Believes, yeah.
In a car with the supposedly, according to the Riverside Sheriff, third Trump assassin.
That means no one secures 270.
So what he's describing here is the manner that we've talked about here on the show before, where they'll have a contested election where it won't have 270 votes. It'll go back to the House. We've talked about this on the show. You know this because you listen to Untaken, but you should understand that supposedly this guy's trying to kill the president. He's having this conversation with a guy who is in the fucking loop with the Trump circles.
The electoral votes, very much so. And then it goes to an overall contingent election where they again vote by state delegation. And then guess who wins? Trump secures the re-election. Yeah. When Nancy Pelosi catches wind of this plan being in motion,
this was your plan. So you said already January 6th is coming up.
Yes, I communicated not only directly to McCarthy, again, the decision makers that need to put this in motion, and as well as some other members of Congress.
So anyway, I'm curious.
In addition to that,
so the guy in the background is the guy that supposedly was trying to kill Trump.
I also publicly said it on different podcasts, and when I'm being retweeted by Trump on several occasions, of course they heard this.
So that video was.
All right. That was a clip from the good video about this. Right, and I'm pissed off that I already have my notes about. So and here's that same guy, Ivan Raiklin, on InfoWars, talking about the same thing. Well, not the same thing. Wait.
Oh, it's a similar. It's the same clip.
I don't know what's happening, Alan.
It's him in the car again.
Oh, I guess I already had that.
Okay.
Well, I guess that lady did do a better job than me on this. So the shooter has been seen with Raiklan, right? Like we know that they are associates, and the sheriff knows that there's no way that sheriff, because that sheriff is on record saying, "Oh, is this that? This might be what I'm thinking it is." The sheriff is on record saying that he.
This is a message.
This is okay. This is that guy on InfoWars. I'm glad I scrolled through this. It will be worth saying though, because I don't think I have a clip for this. The sheriff from Riverside, huge Trump guy. He's had a video that went viral saying like, "It's time we put a felon in the White House." Hi, I'm a sheriff. We should have a felon.
Oh, I've seen it. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Directly to every single person on the deep state target list.
This is Ivan Raiklan. This is friendly with the guy that we are supposed to believe tried to kill Trump.
Was the assassin? Right? Yes.
Assessment. Ivan Raiklan's assessment that if you assassinate.
I don't know what I did. I'm sorry. It'll start.
A message directly to every single person on the deep state target list. My assessment, Ivan Raiklan's assessment, that if you assassinate any political presidential candidate, whether it's RFK, whether it's Trump, guess what? America.
Any candidate, RFK or Trump.
The only two out there.
Will do the following immediately. They will respond in kind, and they know who you are because we've created the list. So if you
and that's a major Rubicon. They should know that
immediately. You're going to see immediately response, and there are only a few buildings in Washington D.C. that they will probably do that.
Well, I hope that's not the case, but these people are crazy.
And having said that,
this is the point of this clip, is what he's about to say.
Okay.
If they do that,
if they kill Trump, is what he's really saying, right?
Right.
Option 2 behind Trump is going to be so much better for us and so much worse.
Well, I was about to say, if they kill him, that's best case scenario.
You heard that?
That's best case
scenario. From a sick level, meeting him, oh, please kill him, which but it's so good after that.
Oh, it's going to be the best cleansing and the fastest cleansing that we've ever seen in my lifetime.
So
it's an interesting choice of words.
What's been going on here? What's been going on here, right? So we're supposed to believe that this guy was trying to kill Trump, yet he's been hanging out with this guy that says if someone kills Trump, it's our best case scenario because then we'll have carte blanche to take out all the Democrats that we don't like.
Right. Yes.
So I don't think this guy wanted to kill Trump. I think he's a wackadoo that thinks that he could just walk around with one of these or one of these and maybe one of the things in that closet over there or the one in the closet in the bedroom and not have a problem when you go past the security detail. Like, you should be worried about that, but that type of person wouldn't naturally. That's the best case scenario. That's the way I see that. But if I want to get conspiratorial, it's not going to be that he's the third assassin. It's that he wanted to kill Trump so that he could get the ball rolling on all of the Democratic cleansing.
Yes.
Right? Like, if we want to get conspiratorial, that would be what it is. I'm having trouble.
I mean,
with that.
somebody has to be the catalyst, so maybe he was volunteering, you know? He was just like,
I mean,
let's get this cleanse thing going.
Right?
A little bit, yes.
It is so fortunate for the right that if the left just paid a little bit of attention what people on the right are actually saying and not what CNN and MSNBC tell them that the right is saying, they would actually know these things too. And they'd actually be able to get out in front of this. Like, I will admit, I'm doing a bad job on this podcast of explaining what I'm trying to say. But like, Democratic operatives should be able to make a narrative out of this. And it was 3 days ago, and it's lost. And they're like, no, it was good news. Nobody was really trying to kill Trump. It's like, no, fucker. Like, there was a narrative to harness and to use. And you just have no fucking clue because CNN told you what the right said.
That's interesting. I hadn't looked at it from that particular angle.
I am beyond hungry. Am I making sense?
That makes a lot of sense, actually. Yeah, the fact that
you say it otherwise, I'd like this clip to be Alan talking. I'm sorry. My brain ain't so good. You know what? In the words of Alex Jones, I'm a little retarded.
Just the fact that nobody on the left understood this narrative and took it and ran with that ball and said, look, this is what they're actually trying to do. And this is what that means, that, you know, the assassination of Trump is a bridge to where they want to get to. It's just like their whole obsession with Israel and Jerusalem, is, well, this needs to happen so the next thing can happen. And the fact that nobody ran with that narrative and was like, look, this is what they're actually doing, this is what they're actually saying, and this is why, is actually, yeah, that's, I understand.
Telling of what their narratives actually are, right?
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Thank you, buddy. Thank you. Sorry for yelling at you over the weekend. In my defense, I did have 8 beers, and I was frustrated.
Also in your defense, your football team had a pretty rough day, so I was factoring
Why
that
are you
in.
bringing it up? You want me to feel bad again?
I was factoring that in as well. I was like, he just did watch that, so
yes, that is also true. Now I'm even more upset. I got to clip a little bit more
Sorry
about.
I brought you back there.
No, you know what? I don't think you're doing maliciously. If you were, I deserve it. So I'm fine with it. So good friends can talk to each other like this. It's good to know. You know what my biggest fear is? That I'm Dawn. I know I'm not, because
no, not at all. Not at all.
Okay, that was my biggest fear. Is you'd be like, dude, you're being like Dawn. I'm like, no, I don't. It is amazing how universally everybody who was on that show talks about him being a fucking asshole.
Yeah.
We're just narrow casting here. I'm sorry. Can I play? Speaking of cognitive decline, I was going to say speaking of Trump, but you know me. Here's a little bit more about Trump's cognitive decline.
Okay.
This is a spokesperson for Trump on. He's doing one of these. Who is this guy in this? Is that
Mehdi Hassan?
Mehdi Hassan, who no longer works for MSNBC, right?
No, I think he's just like
on
the
that
internet
guy
somewhere.
that lives in like Croatia that always. It's not even Croatia. It's like Czech. What Czechostan. We'll go with Czechostan. He's in Czechostan, and he's always like commenting on American politics with me, and I'm like, dude, I love talking to you. You're actually like a pretty level-headed person, but you are like extremely like hyper focused on American politics in a way that makes me feel like you're a bot and you're trying to influence me. So he commented on when I shared this in the story. He's like, I wish Americans had people like who the British spokespeople have to talk about the news. I'm like, this guy used to be in the U.S. This guy used to be on American airwaves. That's what I was getting at. I don't have a lot of faith in my ability to connect dots. Speaking of which, this is a man named Adolfo talking for the Republicans. Did you know that the GOP has a spokesperson in their ranks whose name is Adolfo? Like, is it just possible to not have Adolfos on the right? Is it too much to fucking ask?
Trump has serious cognitive mental health memory issues. He's perpetually confused and incoherent. He confused Nikki Haley with Nancy Pelosi. He confused Barack Obama with Joe Biden. He confused recently the debate Virginia with West Virginia. He called Tim Cook Tim Apple. He ransomed Raves.
That's funny.
Attacks and Hannibal Lecter. He even madly claimed that the photos of crowds at Kamala Harris rallies are AI generated. We all know, you know, I know, everyone here know he sounds nuts. So why would you entrust him with nuclear weapons again?
And with regard to the
Adolfo Franco. Jesus Christ. You have Adolf and Franco in one fucking name?
That's the name
And
lottery
it's
right there.
Trump campaign spokesperson.
Wow.
But was that the Spanish Civil War? That's Franco, right?
Yes.
Okay. Which happens to everyone, the misuse of names and so forth, particularly a person who does not use a script or goes off script and speaks freely. That's going to happen on any occasion. There's no question about that. The problems that President Biden had were completely different. Well, because he is a cognitively challenged individual.
So is Trump.
No, he is
Trump's
not.
the guy, if he sat next to you on the underground, you would move away. He's ranting and raving. You know that, Adolfo. Do you believe the photos at Kamala Harris's rally were AI generated?
I don't know if they're AI generated or not.
That's what Donald Trump said.
I have no idea. President Trump has said he will take a cognitive test, has taken cognitive tests.
Man, person, camera, TV. Wow.
President Biden refused to take a cognitive test.
Adolfo, you're
That's
a
not
smart
true.
man.
That's not true.
No,
I don't trust the results that we heard, but that's not true.
That's not true. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't understand how you can support a candidate who thinks wind turbines cause cancer, thinks you can stop a hurricane with a nuclear weapon.
Don't you kind of want to see what that would do, though? I kind of want to see what happens if you nuke a hurricane.
I mean, that would be. I'd certainly tune in. Yeah.
That'd be kind of fun.
Thinks you need ID to buy a box of cereal. Thinks you can buy Greenland from Denmark. Thinks England and the UK are the same thing. Thinks you can beat COVID by putting disinfectant in your arms. Thinks a stealth fighter jet is literally invisible. And talks about toilet flush water pressure in every one of his rallies. He's nuts.
If you went all these statements and put them in the context of their saying.
What is the context?
They keep always doing this, right? Like he can't just say things and be wrong. They have to come in afterwards and correct it.
Saying
in the context of
that
what
you
they're-
can buy
no,
Greenland
wait,
from
wait,
Denmark.
And when the context of what we're saying, or people who make these mistakes frequently in the United States, unfortunately,
Your
I've
boss.
said to- anyone, any
No,
American.
your boss.
But
Only
when
him.
when you look this in the entire of its context, all of these statements, these are not things that reflect in any shape, way, or form his ability or capacity to be president or fitness to be president.
Doesn't this sound exactly like what Democrats were saying like 6 months ago?
A little bit. I mean, it's got to be exhausting to try and defend Trump like in front of a microphone. It's just like, how do you win? Like, you're just trying to construct this narrative that's completely like antithetical to reality. It's just, I don't know.
Exhausting is absolutely the right word. And here's a good example. This got completely under the radar. I think this happened on Saturday. Luckily for Trump, he had a bunch of we have if you haven't noticed, I moved the elections to the second half. I moved the Trump, best of Trump and all of his shenanigans, best of the rest of the right, best of the left, all in the second half. We haven't been playing any of that in the first half. Here's a little teaser that didn't fit because he had so many other faux pas, fox pas, later on in between Saturday and now.
Many Azerbaijans.
He's in Arizona, Alan. He was in Arizona. He was in Arizona, and he was trying to talk about
Azerbaijans.
I mean, it starts with an A.
I hadn't even heard that one. That's pretty impressive.
I know. To my point, right? Like,
yeah.
Like
Azerbaijans.
I mean, Azerbaijan is kind of in Eurasia.
I think he meant to
like,
say Arizonans, perhaps.
Oh, he 100% was trying to say Arizonans. If I wasn't clear, yes, the challenge to say Arizonans challenge
Azerbaijans.
Impossible. Yeah. Trump challenge impossible. Say Arizonans. I do want to go to break with a visual thing and then a little funny thing.
Okay.
This is for the viewers. We'll describe it. JD Vance on an old video that resurfaced this week. He was doing a live stream where his video, you can have an option to mirror your background, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he had a jdvance.com sign in the background, and he decided to fix that because he noticed it was mirrored. He didn't go into the software settings. He looks at it. Okay. Oh, I could fix this. Thinks about it. Stands up. Grabs the camera. Turns the camera upside down because I want to fix that, right? Like,
that's hilarious.
Like,
you can
come
see the wheels turning in his brain as he's like, "What
Right?
do I do?"
Like,
Yeah.
I'm not exaggerating this, right?
No,
Like,
Wow,
Oh, man.
that's very funny.
We'll come back. We'll talk a little bit more about American politics, best of the left, the election stuff that's been going on. I think we're doing great for just about a 3-hour show. I think that's what people like. Let me ask you a question, though.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be hilarious if they did the whole Harris coup switcheroo and she still loses?
Why would it be hilarious?
Wouldn't that be? Oh, come on. That would be so hilarious. Imagine like Joe Biden's memoirs. He'd be like, this bitch called me a racist in the 2020 primary. I resurrected her career. I fell on my sword for her to lose anyways.
This is the B-side of our platter, sports fans. And I'm singing just for you, covered in sequins.
In the canyons of your mind, I will wander through your brain to the ventricles of your heart, my dear. I'm in love with you again. Cross the mountains of your chest, I will stick a Union Jack to the forest of your cheek, through the holes in your string bag.
And we're back.
Same time.
How about that?
Love
It's
it when
nice
that
and
happens. It's a nice trick if you can do it, right?
Yeah. It's cool. You get extra points for that.
Oh my god, I feel like myself again. Oh shit, I forgot to get an ice cube.
Go get one.
You know what? Neat's fine.
Yeah. You sure?
It's just whiskey. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
According to who's this guy with the whiskey neat song that I don't care for?
Oh.
Do you know this song? It's like, I like my whiskey neat.
I do.
Okay. I woke up to this. In my head, it sounded similar to something, and it must just be like musically and some like R-worded way that my brain's working. I woke up solving the puzzle of what it sounded like to me, and it doesn't sound like it. But I think if like I was a mashup DJ, I could do this. Ain't talking about love.
Oh.
Love is rotten to the core. My whiskey neat. Their love is rotten to the core. You can hear it?
I can hear it.
Okay.
You could definitely mash that up. Yeah.
Okay.
You might have to do a little bit of a beat change slightly, but it's close enough.
Yeah. Slightly.
Yeah.
They all do. All those mashup
Yeah.
DJs do.
Yeah.
Dude, I thought I was like on one there. So good to hear you agree with me on that.
No, I agree completely. Dude, I've been listening to so much Mac Miller since Billy Wayne brought it up. I was
Yeah,
like,
that
I've
was
listened
cool.
to Mac
That
Miller
was
for
cool.
a while.
You guys both vibed on that. I got to be honest. I didn't appreciate him enough. Like I was not on it with him. My roommate, we'll go with at the time, really liked him though, and by roommate it was not an ex-wife. Usually that is what it means.
Yeah, dude, that was such a fun episode, man.
Yeah,
he was
it
cool.
was.
He had a great vibe.
Yeah, he was really. It took a little bit for us to like really start rolling, but especially like towards the middle and from like about a third of the way in through the end, I thought it was like a really just.
Yeah.
I think we'll have him back on too. It's gonna be a lot
Absolutely,
of fun. And it'll just be like the way it was at the end.
Yeah, organic.
And we'll be on this platform where our audio won't be fucked up.
Yeah. Oh shit. Yes.
I was half of it, dude. Like
I was worried about it while we were recording.
When I'm on this volume mixer, I can go by different application. I should have Riverside open in like
a different browser.
A different browser.
Yeah.
And then we can deal with our audio. It'll be just fine. So we'll do that on the next recording next week.
All right. Cool.
I had a question I wanted to come back to half asking you about.
Okay.
It's a little high-minded, so put your potty mind back in the closet or whatever.
Okay.
Your potty mind.
We're going
Please keep your potty mind in the show. Actually, so Walls kind of stepped in it this last week, saying that he wants to abolish. He said we should of course abolish the Electoral College. Did you hear him saying that?
I caught wind of that. Yes.
So caught wind. Okay. So then he had to walk it back because the campaign walked it back. It was like, actually, that's not a position of the Harris Walls campaign.
Right.
And then he did an interview with Michael Strahan of all people. I guess because he's a football coach. Michael Strahan played defense. He was a defensive.
Oh, makes sense. Sure.
It all checks out, right?
Yeah.
By all means, don't give him a shotgun. That comes up later. Not very vice presidential, I'll say that. I'll elaborate on that. Why don't more states do what Nebraska and Maine do?
Which is what?
2 votes for the state and 1 vote for each congressional district. And all of the congressional districts are split by who the congressional districts vote for. So right now, like, I don't know what California's electoral value is, but let's just call it 30, right? All 30.
Yeah.
I know. It's probably like 36 things. So like all 30 of California's votes go as whatever, the majority of the state voted for, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in Nebraska, they have like 2 congressional districts and then 2 votes for the state. So the 2 state votes will go to the majority. I guess you wouldn't have a majority there. You'd find a way to split that. But each congressional district would go to, so the state votes, the 2 for the state would go to the majority, the popular vote of the state. And then each congressional district would turn in their electoral votes based on what their electoral district voted for. So it could be more minute detail, finer detail, rather than just, low resolution. all of them winner takes all, right?
Yeah, I was
Wouldn't
just going to say winner takes all is the thing, right? So California has 54 electoral votes.
It feels like the argument against the popular vote is it shouldn't be just winner take all, but then people that don't want to get rid of the electoral college aren't okay with what I just described because they want winner take all for the electoral college for the state.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a pretty bizarre system. I was actually talking with somebody about this like a week or two ago. Why?
And I know you read that book about it. I think you know more about it than I do.
Yeah, it's How the People Pick the President or something like that. So yeah, I mean, obviously the reason we have the electoral college is to take some of the just majority rule factor out of it. You know, if it were just a popularity contest,
I'm sympathetic to, you know.
I am too. California would have just an outsized, California and New York, the population centers would have like just an outsized role in who would get elected as president. And so the reason that we have the electoral college is sort of to mitigate that and sort of dampen down those differences. So you have a state like Wyoming or fucking Delaware or something, they get like 3 electoral college votes. California gets like 54. So yeah, there still is, California as a state has significantly more impact on the election than Delaware does, but not as much as it would if it were just
its population of voters.
Right. So it's muted. I think a system like you're talking about, like those states use, where it's still muted, but it's less muted, and your vote matters. Because in a state like ours or mine, California, it really doesn't matter too much if I vote or not, because
that's a lot like mine. They're going to vote for Tennessee.
Same.
I mean, they're going to vote for Republican.
Right. So if your vote in your local congressional district did make a difference, that might, ultimately what would be best would be a system that brings more people into the system, more people voting, because then
I think that would. I feel
Right.
like that would, because of what you just said, right? Like it would give local areas a reason to think that their vote mattered more.
Yeah,
rather
and then
than
if
wouldn't
you
feel like you're doing a protest vote, you're going to affect your congressional district.
Right. And so if you had more people bought into the system and felt like their vote mattered, then suddenly maybe they pay a little bit more attention to politics, and suddenly they buy less of the bullshit that these shitty
See, I was
culture
looking at that
warrior.
from the other way around. I was thinking that like the presidential candidates wouldn't just hyper focus on 6 states. They would have to worry about this county there, that county there,
Sure.
right? Like,
But also the
but
voter-
the effect of that would be they would be more the electorate would be more bought in, which is the
Right.
more important part.
And then maybe you're less likely to be hoodwinked by Marjorie Taylor Greene and
Yeah.
her at all. So yeah, I definitely think the system could use an overhaul. The system that we have, I don't think is very functional. I think a lot of people don't choose not to participate because they're like, fuck it. Why bother?
I heard a very biased person talking about what I was just proposing and saying that it's stupid because the entire concept of federalism is that the states give the power to the federal government, and if you go to a popular vote, you would get rid of all of federalism. And it's like, well, no, yes, if you did that, but this wouldn't be a popular vote. This would be a modified popular vote where the congressional districts would still be there.
Yeah, you're still muting the popular vote, but it's not as muted, and as in certain areas, like we said, it doesn't matter at all. So you're taking that away without just going full on popular vote.
The other arguments that I heard was that you'd have to do a recount of the whole thing if there was a close election. But again, no, you would just go down to the district level and recount certain districts.
Yep.
I can't think of an argument against what I just said. So you would just do the congressional, you would split up each number of the electoral count from each state by its congressional district and leave the 2 that is the starter, which is like this, what the senators, I think so, right?
So the number, I'm not sure exactly where you were going there, but so the number of electoral votes per state is based on
it's there's 2 and then 1 for each congressional district.
Yes. Yeah, because you get 2 for your senators, because everybody gets 2 senators, and then it's whatever. And it's based on the census that we conduct every 10 years.
So the 2 could be the popular vote for the state. So you can have a tipping based on the popular vote.
Right.
And then representative of each district for the electoral count. I don't understand why that's not what we do. It's not even that much of an overhaul.
Yeah, and it's not like it's unconstitutional, because that's
it would have to be a constitutional amendment. That's the thing. But it wouldn't be you wouldn't be asking people to do something like get rid of the electoral college.
But states within their own constitutions can determine how they do their electoral votes. That's why those states are able to do that.
Oh, right.
So
so it wouldn't even have to be a federal thing. Like this could literally
maybe at
be
a
done
state
state by
constitutional
state.
level, it would have to change, but not at a
Yeah, but
federal
no
level.
one state's gonna. This is a hostage situation. They're
Right.
like, I'm not going to do this until you do this.
It's a collaboration problem. Yeah. Coordination problem. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you meant. You could have left it. I would have been fine with it. You're right. Listeners would have figured it out.
Yeah.
Let's do a little bit of our elections talk. This is Kamala Harris on releasing her medical records. That came out today, by the way. She's talking shit about Trump with dodging the press. Here, let me play the clip. I think my follow-up will be just fine if I get the clip. Well, I know it's not playing, Alan. Hold on, okay? Here we go.
And he's not, but here's the thing, North Carolina, and he's not being transparent with the voters. He's not being transparent. So check this out.
Check this out.
He refuses to release his medical records. I've done it. Every other presidential candidate in modern era has done it. He is unwilling to do a 60 Minutes interview. Like every other major party candidate has done for more than half a century. He is unwilling to meet for a second debate.
All right. I don't need to turn this into playing her campaign stuff.
It's funny. She was actually, I think it was in Pennsylvania. She was at one of these rallies, and she actually played like a mashup clip of Trump. Did you see that?
That's her new thing. She played a mashup of what we're about to play, the Maria Bartiromo interview, right?
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Before we get to that, I just want to say, so things that came out regarding medical records today. So Trump went on Truth Central.
Social.
She's got spunk.
That's not it.
But if I'm sitting down and that boat's going down and I'm on top of a battery,
here it is.
Truth Central.
He went on Truth Central, and he put out this thing saying like Kamala Harris put out her medical records. She's in horrible medical condition. Unlike me, healthy as a horse. Nothing's wrong with me. You can ask Dr. Ronnie.
Just look at my dumper.
Robert, yeah. So he so then people started looking into what. So obviously there's like HIPAA things at case, right? Like they don't actually like disclose the entire medical history of the person, but they said she has nearsightedness, she has allergies, and some word I don't know how to pronounce. And MAGA started filling my inbox saying that the only way you get that is from being a raging alcoholic, which I when I Googled how you get that, it's mostly like it's a skin condition. And knowing like her ethnic background, like people that I've known that were like Southeast Asian and like Native Americans, I know it's not black, but like people with different, let's go with pigmentation, can have those like eczema type issues at higher rates than other people. It's not eczema, but it's something kind of like that, right?
Similar, yeah.
I don't know what the fuck it is, but it's not my understanding that you actually get that from only being a raging alcoholic. Also, if she is like, very presidential, then let me introduce you to President Grant. Like, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, checks the box, actually.
Yeah, just fills the category very well.
Yeah.
So she goes on to say that he's dodging mainstream interviews, right?
Well, she did do 60 Minutes, and he didn't.
Okay. You see where I was going with this? I was be like, she's only doing comedians podcasts and call her dad. Oh wait, no, that's her. Okay.
She did do Call Her Daddy, and
I walked into that too slowly. You saw that.
So Trump was on Flagrant. Is that what you're going to play?
I'll play that later. I
Okay.
have that at some point. I think that's in the best of Trump. Okay. This is all sort of become a mash. I thought I was wearing a ball cap. I just tried to scratch my head through the. There we go. The cowboy hat got in the way. So, man, look at this lady. This is who Joey Ramone was in love with, Maria Bartiromo. So, there's a couple of clips from Trump's interview with her where he said some pretty alarming things. I think it's best if I just play this clip, and I'll just interrupt with my feedback on it.
In government that you would want to slim
Incredible
down.
fact.
So what agencies would you want to shut down?
Well, let me have you ask another person that, because I'm going to have Elon Musk. He is dying to do this. You know, he's a great business guy, actually. You think of him for science and rockets, and every time I think he's telling me about a new screw that was developed, he's developed
A new what?
Screws are difficult, and
He developed a new screw.
Oh,
it's made out of titanium. And it's so exciting. But you know,
It's a very exciting screw.
what?
apparently.
This guy, and he's a great cost cutter. You've
I like how he's like, you know, you think of Elon Musk as the science guy, but turns out businessman. Who knew? He's developing screws.
and he's
Really, he makes cool screws.
cut cost.
He will be in the cabinet.
Not in the cabinet. He doesn't
This is my favorite part of this. He won't be in the cabinet, but
want to be in the cabinet. He just wants to be in charge of cost cutting. We'll have a new position, Secretary of Cost Cutting.
secretaries are in the cabinet, right?
Yes, yes. That's where we keep them, in the cabinet. Yeah.
Keep our secretaries in the cabinet.
Yes,
Okay.
that's where they go.
Elon wants to do that. And we have incredible people. He's running a big business. You know, he can't just say, oh, I think I'll go into the cabinet. You know, other people can. He can't. But Elon's a little bit different in that sense.
All right, I think we're good there. I don't have to listen to much more of that.
He's a little bit different in that sense.
He's a little bit in that sense, yeah.
Right.
So not a cabinet position, but secretary position, which I'm sorry, that fucking bothers me. Like
That makes sense. It would.
the fuck do I know? Not as much as Donald Trump, right? Like, not when you're president, whatever. So that wasn't the alarming clip from that interview.
Mm-hmm.
This was the alarming.
Let's remember, you've got 50,000 Chinese nationals in this country in the last couple of years.
So Maria Bartiromo starts off this line of questioning, spitting out Trump's, I'm going to say lied about. If you prefer exaggerated, that's fine. There's a couple of different ways you can look at these numbers. A lot of them aren't really verifiable, but it's like, you know, migration hasn't been good. If you're saying that these crimes are attributed to these people, like, fine, but you really shouldn't be talking about them like they're in the fucking stone. Like, we don't know that. And you're pandering to the guy that's set these numbers in motion for us to believe them, right?
Yeah, she's playing in his sandbox for sure.
Yeah.
Got 50,000 Chinese nationals in this country in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
You have people on the terrorist watch list, 350 in the last couple of years. You got, like you said, 13,000 murderers and 15,000 rapists.
Right.
What are you expecting? Joe Biden said he doesn't think it's going to be a peaceful election day.
Well, he doesn't have any idea what's happening in all fairness. He spends most of his day sleeping.
Okay, that's probably true.
I think the bigger problem is the enemy from within.
Here it is. This is the part.
Not even the people that have come in and destroyed.
Great Rush song. The Enemy Within. Not a big Rush fan. Yeah,
I like Rush.
I turned 40 and I didn't become a huge Rush fan, and I guess I'm just a failed man of my age. Even when that movie I Love Man was like all about Rush, I was like, I don't get it.
Moving Pictures is a great album. That's a good album.
Me from within. Not even the people that have come in and destroying our country. By the way, totally destroying our country.
He's saying, don't worry about all those immigrants and all those rapists and all those murderers that I've been, vilifying for all these years. The real enemy is the enemy within.
The towns, the villages, they're being inundated. But I don't think they're the problem in terms of election day. I think the bigger problem are the people from within. We have some very bad people. We have some sick people, radical left lunatics. And I think they're and it should be very easily handled by, if necessary, by National Guard, or if really necessary, by the military, because they can't let that happen.
Let's
talk about that.
Yeah, so maybe he does need a secretary of retaliation,
retribution.
Retribution. Yeah, that's a very concerning statement. You have these radical left
coming
wing.
at a time where people are clearly willing to commit political violence, right?
Yeah.
We are seeing that.
We definitely are, and so we need to perhaps bring in the military to deal with these radical left wing people. That's an escalation rhetorically. That's pretty concerning.
Did you see the headlines from Military Times? Oh, what, you're saying that we should turn down the rhetoric?
That would be preferential.
So the Military Times headline on this clip was, Trump aims to expand domestic military use if reelected. Great example of sane washing, right?
Yeah.
Is that what that sounded like? Expand domestic military use if reelected. So, I feel like we're a little numb to what we just heard. Like, we've heard versions of this ever since it came out that he wanted to shoot those protesters at Lafayette Park and Bill Barr had to stop him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Still irks me that park's named after Lafayette, and he was just like, yeah, let's go kill people there. Like, the symbolism, that is so offensive. All it would take, like, let's be, like, I'm not being hyperbolic. This is just real world, right?
Okay.
I'm not fear-mongering. I'm just being very realistic about how government works. Do you know what it would take for the National Guard to be used to fire on troops, on protesters? Also, he's very vague, right? The enemy within, right? He's being vague intentionally.
Yeah.
Like, does this mean, like, do we need to pull all of our podcasts as quick as we can and find out, like, just so we find out we're not on the list? Like, that's a little hyperbolic. I doubt that we would be on the radar, but, like,
right.
Do you know? So do you know what it would take for National Guard to be firing on protesters?
Well, so it'd be in violation of the Posse Comitatus Act, right? So
no, it would take no.
Not
it
National Guard.
It would take a sympathetic governor and him to authorize the funding to pay for the troops to
sign the check,
them.
essentially.
That's all. That's all it would take.
Jesus. That's pretty terrifying, actually. Sign the check and it's done. Well, there is one more thing. You have to get National Guard members to be willing to do it. So there's also that.
Yeah. I mean, they're definitely humans and individuals, but they're people that have been trained to follow orders and chain of command. You know, like,
yeah,
I'm not fucking count on that. Like, I definitely respect everybody I know that's been in uniform, and I would like to think higher than that. But, like, at the end of the day, you're in a group of people that follow orders. Like,
yeah, I mean, and if you look historically, there certainly are examples of soldiers who refuse to participate in things like that, but there are also plenty who went along with it. So, yeah.
I see what you mean. Yeah. I think before we went to half, I was bringing up an example of how everybody always has to clarify what he means instead of just letting him say the thing the right
Sane washing,
way.
yeah.
Like, he could just say it the right way, right? Like, people, like, imagine Pete Buttigieg going on MSNBC and being like, no, what Kamala Harris meant by the symbolism of a coconut tree is this, right? No, that doesn't fucking happen. But we deal with people like Glenn Youngkin going on CNN to explain what Trump actually meant.
Heard some of the language that Mr. Trump used over the weekend. What do you think of this idea of, quote, we have some sick people, radical left lunatics, and I think it should be very easily handled by, if necessary, the National Guard, or if really necessary, by the military. Is that something that you support?
Jake, first of all, thank you for having me. And I guess what I want to just make very clear is that it's my belief that what former President Trump is talking about are the people that are coming over the border, that in fact are committing crimes, that are bringing drugs, that are trafficking humans.
He was very specifically saying that. I have a Natasha made curry. Alan, talk for me. Talk for me.
He was very specifically saying people on the radical left. And of course, Youngkin wants to, this is the narrative, right? Immigration is the problem. They're destroying.
No. He was saying, sure, all those people on the immigration side are concerning, but it's the enemy within that we're concerned about. And he's like, no, he meant the immigrants.
He meant the immigrants. Yes.
He set up the question saying immigrants. And he's like, yeah, but also like Adam Schiff. I didn't play the clip where he named Adam Schiff specifically.
And that are turning every state into a border state.
Obviously, there is a border crisis. Obviously,
every
there are
state's
too
a border
many
state. Okay.
Criminals who should not be in this country, and they should be jailed and deported completely. But that's not what I'm talking about, because he was talking about sick people, radical left lunatics who should be handled by the National Guard or the military. And then later on in that same speech, he said that one of the lunatics he addressed was Congressman Adam Schiff. That's who he was talking about.
I don't like Adam Schiff.
Using the National Guard and military against radical left lunatics, enemy from within, people like Adam Schiff.
Again, Jake, I don't think that I can't.
I'm just reading you his
speak
quotes.
for him, but I do think that you are misinterpreting and misrepresenting his thoughts. I don't think that he's referring to elected people in America.
Literally named.
I'm literally reading his quotes.
Oh God, I don't like sounding. Who is that guy?
Jake Tapper.
I don't.
Yeah. Yeah, he literally said a person's name who is an elected member of Congress.
And he's
yeah.
like, "There's no way he meant that." It's like I'm reading it. I'm reading it to you. It's just like the unwillingness to accept that from their leadership and demand better. Like that's the thing with like people are like, you really think Kamala Harris would be a better president than Trump? Like, man, barely. But here's what I do think. I think there are more Democrats that will demand better from a bad Democrat than there are Republicans that won't put up with this same bullshit that they're putting up with just to have power.
He even says in that clip, he says, I think you're misinterpreting it. What is there to interpret? This is what he said. That's just a black and white issue. Like he said, he wants to target people who are on the radical left, like Adam Schiff. What's there to interpret about that?
Also,
he's misinterpret.
And also, he talks about in that, I don't know if it was in the clip that we played. He talks about basically saying like protesters and stuff like that. Like these are the First Amendment absolutists, right? Like I know freedom of speech, we think it's so that you can go on Facebook and say whatever you want, right?
Right.
But last time I checked, freedom of assembly is a major part of the First Amendment.
You know what I've noticed is I've been listening to some stuff about like the McCarthy era and the rhetoric that was used by him and people around him that supported him. There's a lot of echoes in what things that Trump says and things that were said by McCarthy and people around him in that era, which if you indulge at all in that history, it's pretty terrifying to think of what they were doing to people. There were people who were just trying to be, representatives of their constituencies as, Congress people, and they were harassed so badly by McCarthy and his gang of thugs, essentially, that some of them like killed themselves. It was a really horrific time politically in the U.S. And a lot of the rhetoric that you see from Trump is very reminiscent of that, and from Bannon as well. Bannon kind of, I don't know if Bannon does it intentionally, but he definitely, he might as well be McCarthy right now, except he's not elected.
Do you want to know something interesting that so you talk about Trump and McCarthy.
Mm-hmm.
I can give you a character that overlaps.
Oh.
And it has to do with rhetoric and style.
Do tell.
Do you know who the attorney was that defended and in a lot of ways mentored McCarthy?
Oh, it's the same guy that mentored
Roy Cohn.
Yes.
Roy Cohn. If you aren't familiar, guys, I'll give you a little Google homework. Look up Roy, C-O-H-N, Roy Cohn.
Yeah.
Yep. Fred Trump and Roy Cohn are probably the two biggest influences on Trump's life, and it's not a coincidence that you talk about Trump's rhetoric and McCarthy's rhetoric overlapping.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know where I put that.
That was a good pull, man. That was a good pull.
Thanks. Meanwhile, while we're talking about election updates, this clip is pissing off people on the progressive side. Kamala went on The View, hard-hitting interview, and said this.
On having a Republican in my cabinet.
And nobody liked that. It's just for all of our sake, do we have to hear her talk more? Is it okay?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, yeah. So, I think people like me and you are like, oh, good. That's a good thing. Like, I like that. And then people that are like, just fucking dyed in the wool with everything are like, how could you ever let the enemy within, that's how they talk. Is that better? Did I do it better?
Yeah, that was better. That's better.
Hey, speaking of a funny voice, let's get into our best of the Trump cult.
Okay.
You'll see where this is going very quickly.
Where's Gates for Trump?
Where's Gates for Trump?
You don't look good.
You don't look gay.
You look gay.
I wish I wasn't juggling audio levels. I'd just love to go to some of our great sound clips that are. Oh wait, no, it's stale now. It's time. The time has passed.
We've come too far.
Here's Trump talking about how we are not a great country.
Not a great country right now. It's loaded up.
Always. This is so you were talking about this, right? You were talking
so
about
he was on Flagrant. Actually, his interactions with Akash were pretty amusing. Akash was like, "Hey, do you think you understand like the power of your words, and maybe you could tone it down a little bit?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'll do it for you." He's like, fucking, he's not, but it was entertaining, I guess.
Like I'll do it personally while I'm talking to you, or I'll do
Right.
it in general for you.
Yeah, unclear.
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't have a lot of clips from this because there were quite a few clips from this.
Yeah.
And at first I was just like, this is Trump. This is Trump on a popular podcast. I wasn't like jealous of that.
No.
But I didn't want to just like I don't want to play Harris being on The View, like pandering to, trying to gather those votes. I don't want to just play. There was a clip where they were like, he was like, I don't do drugs. And he's like, and Schultz was like, what about Don Jr.? He's like, well, Don Jr. He was a little bit of a rascal, something like that. But like there were a few clips that kind of jumped out, and this was one of them. This was somebody play this one more time. Let's start from the beginning.
Not a great country right now.
I like this because of the way Schultz responds to that.
It's loaded
It's
up.
always a great country. It's a great country.
See,
It's
why I
always a
disagree.
great country.
Okay, but I say it has the potential, and it was a great country. I
bet it was a great country 4 years ago, and then 40 years ago.
think now there's so much hatred and there's so much dissension. It's not a great country.
I mean, that's just infuriating to be told to your face that, like, I take pride in this country. Like, you know how difficult it is to be a patriotic person where that crowd gets to say what patriotism is?
Yeah.
Well, of course you know how it is.
But that has been his narrative for a long time. Is the narrative of decay of a country on the wrong path, of a country that's lost its way and needs a messiah figure to turn it around, and he's the guy. That's been his narrative almost since day one.
Yeah, of his campaign.
Yeah.
But after he was friends with the Democrats.
This
is Trump. So there was a lot of clips that came out today from his interview with the Economic Club of Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a Bloomberg piece or event. I will not say that Micklethwaite. Micklethwaite. I think it's Micklethwaite.
I like the first version better.
No, sorry. I didn't say it British. Micklethwaite. It's not twat. It's twat. Anyway,
we should have a
speaking
"We
of-
Say Twat in This House" mug as well. I think.
Yeah, we should. We say
Yeah.
twat in this house, but we don't. We say cunt in this house, Alan. It's
Oh,
right
okay.
here.
I'm a cunt.
I got that board ready. So this is speaking of countries that Trump thinks is great.
Can you say yes or no whether you have talked to Vladimir Putin since you stopped being president?
Well, I don't comment on that, but I will tell you that if I did, it's a smart thing. If I'm friendly with
So just using his own insecure logic, there's no way he's dumb. Therefore, he did. This is- right? Like,
right.
Can you say yes or no whether you have talked to Vladimir Putin since you stopped being president?
well, I don't comment on that, but I will tell you that if I did, it's
This man comments on everything. But he won't comment on
He
that.
says, "I won't comment on that," and then proceeds to comment on it. That's what he does.
a smart thing. If I'm friendly with people, if I have a relationship with people, that's a good thing, not a bad thing. In terms of a country, he's got 2,000 nuclear weapons, and so do we. China has a lot less, but they'll catch us within 5 years.
That sounds
If
very
I
much
have a
like- that sounds
relationship,
very much
I
like
don't
you-
talk
you
about.
did talk
I don't
to
talk about. No, I don't talk
That sounds very much like you did talk to him.
about that. But I can tell you what, Russia has never had a president that they respect so much.
I don't think that Trump is doing well in these types of interviews. I think he does well on these comedy podcasts.
Yeah, and I think he does well in a friendly environment like Maria Bartiromo. Well, even then he says crazy shit. But softball interviews or interviews that are completely on his
I feel
side
like
of
his
the court.
handlers don't want him in this environment anymore. I mean,
They
like,
definitely don't.
I don't know if he should even go on Rogan, like for his sake. I don't think that's that friendly of a look. I know what the left thinks Rogan is. I don't
Yeah.
think that he's going to get away with saying complete bullshit there without, hey, Jamie, look that up. Come on now. That's not true,
Yeah, I mean, I guess Rogan can be. It depends what mode Rogan happens to be in on the show because he's
not going to be on there talking about aliens, Alan.
That's true.
He's not going to be talking about
I'm
pot,
just
'cause he
saying
doesn't.
there are times when Rogan is very like inquisitive and like asks the question that needs to be asked, and then there's times where he just kind of rolls with the punches and seems like, you know, I don't know.
And he often does defer to authority figures when
Right.
they are at that level, because
Yes.
people hated him for having Bernie on. No, not Bernie. Did he have Bernie on?
I think he had Bernie on, yeah.
I know he had. Yeah. Okay. Anyways, Harris says she might go on. I think she should. I think it'll be terrible for her, but I think she should.
I mean, she's done a bunch already. She might as well hit him too.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is him talking about Kamala Harris having word salad problems.
After watching her on 60 Minutes and on watching that horrible statement that she made, they call it a word salad. I don't really like those words because it was really worse than that. But
he's like, I have more respect for salad than that.
after watching that, I don't think
insult to
she's
salads.
33. I don't think she has any idea what's happening. Okay, I think she's dumber than hell, and we've had enough of that for 4 years. We're not going to have it any longer because after watching her on.
Okay, so that's the insult on the whole word salad thing, right?
Yeah, but it sounds like he's still
I'm setting up a premise on word salad being the thing that the right has been focusing on. Which, hello, welcome to Untaken. We spent like the last 4 years having like most of the best of the left clips were Kamala Harris word salads, right?
Right.
And in fact, as soon as she became the candidate, people came out of the woodwork sending us clips that we've already played on the show 3 years prior, right?
Right.
Like we're familiar with Kamala Harris word salad. Nothing new in that regard, but that's what they're talking about, right?
Part of what he
here
just did in that clip, though, was he's recycling a Joe Biden attack where he says that she doesn't know what's happening. So he's recycling a Biden attack.
to repackage the existing insult under the new. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
And then just she's dumb. It's like, look, man, you could say she's not effective, but like, you don't go through prosecutor school if you're dumb.
She's clearly intelligent. He clearly doesn't respect her at all.
Yeah, which I think is to your detriment. Right?
I agree.
I think that you can insult her. I think you should insult her. I don't think that you should anticipate her to be stupid. You know what I mean?
No.
Like that's not going to work out well. I mean, you saw how the debate went, right?
Right.
So Alan, I was talking about word salad. Okay, I was trying to set something up.
Here we go. Word salad.
So remember, he's insulting word salad as a concept. Here he is on the Schultz podcast again. Ask a very good question about immigration.
Stop presenting.
I've definitely been taken care of as a kid by people that weren't legal, babysitters and stuff. So there are people that maybe would like a path to citizenship that I have a lot of empathy for.
You have to start with the criminals.
Agreed.
Okay, look.
But maybe we could.
It's very.
Why are his pants so short?
That's his style. He's been doing that for years.
Style? Is that a style in general right now?
He thinks so. I don't know. He has odd haircuts and
bit to people who are trying to be, good, hardworking Americans.
And you know what's going to happen? You're going to be in the midst of this. Now, Dwight Eisenhower was sort of a moderate, General Eisenhower.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure Dwight Eisenhower is going to come back to immigration.
Did you know that they had 8% generals, president of the United States? 8% were generals, 92% were politicians.
The immigration question.
And then you had Trump. See, that's a weave. We go off it just
I
for
like
a second.
that. Because now I'm like, where are we weaving to? I'm into this.
No, think of it. Because we're talking about generals, and then you get back onto the general.
There you
because
go.
what I was going to say is that Eisenhower.
I like the
is a
play-by-play
moderate.
for the weave.
No, it's good.
So can you talk about what they're talking about with the weave thing?
I don't know.
So they're talking about how Trump will go off on tangents. And
okay. Yes.
It's different slang for tangents, basically. Weave is and he's playing along with that slang, saying, here, do you talk about a weave? Here's a weave. I'm talking about generals now. And then he's calling play-by-play of his weave. And Schultz is like, I like the play-by-play of the weave. Problem is, he never gets back to what he's fucking talking about. And the question was about immigration.
Right. And how there should be some legal
mention
immigration.
Eisenhower, and then I say he was a general, 8% generals, 92%, and now you go back. Okay, it's part of the weave.
Yeah.
Then you go back. You got to keep it all together. You got to be sharp. If you're not sharp, you're dead. Think of it. No, but think of it. So we have 92% and 8%. Nobody, no admirals, and no business people until me. So now we have me. I'm one.
Yeah.
So
And then maybe things change after that.
No, I think it will change. There'll never be another business person that ever does this.
Okay, here's the
because
question.
I've been treated so badly that I think that
So
no
badly.
person of success.
I did everything right and they indicted me.
Don't forget, my whole life was deals. Most guys are stiffs.
Yes.
Like they'll run for office. There's no deal. There's no nothing. You can't get yourself in trouble much.
Yeah.
You can be a crooked politician, which some are.
Yeah.
But basically, I do so many deals. I do hundreds of thousands of pages of documents a year. You know, as I'm.
Here's where he wins. I don't even feel like I have momentum to go back to insulting him over the fact that this is supposed to be an answer about immigration.
Because he just went down this meandering road where he was doing the weave, man. He's just doing the weave.
And you know, and so this is what I say when like this is a softball for him to go on like these comedy podcasts. I think that like keeping him away from those Bloomberg events and those Bartiromo interviews is the task, but they can't because he needs to promote himself and have rallies and have front facing. But the Democrats want it too, and it's all led to something you started to talk about earlier, which please indulge yourself in. Her new campaign.
Oh yeah. So she started playing clips of mashup clips of Trump at rallies and saying, "Look, this is the guy, Pennsylvania. This is the guy that we're talking about here." And she plays clips of. It's kind of. It almost reminds me of a podcasting move where it's just like, look at what this person is doing and saying. That put it on the big screen.
It's not part of her tactic before to have a screen. So she has a screen and she plays like a highlight reel of him saying, you know, like.
Thank you. I did such a good job. JP, right? JD Mandel. So busy.
You know, I think J.D. Vance is weird.
Puerto Rico. Her cat was named Vagina. I mean, I was a businessman doing business. You know, Lenin.
You know, I think J.D. Vance is weird.
Boys who got good grades were sissies or faggots.
Oh, how'd that get in there? I'm sorry. That was JD Vance talking. Here's an example. You know what? I could have just played this. Here's something that she probably plays in her reels.
And it's so simple.
So he was in Detroit.
I mean, you know, this isn't like Elon with his rocket ships that land within 12 inches on the moon where they wanted to land. Or he gets the
Did you hear
engines back. That was the first I said, who the hell did that? I saw engines about 3-4 years ago. These things were coming, cylinders, no wings, no nothing. And they're coming down very slowly, landing on a raft in the middle of the ocean someplace with a circle. Boom. Reminded me of the Biden circles that he used to have, right? He'd have 8 circles and he couldn't fill them up.
What?
But then I heard he beat us with the popular vote. I don't know.
So Elon Musk, SpaceX, circles.
8
Biden,
circles. He couldn't fill them up.
Person, woman, man, camera, TV.
Unclear what he was supposed to fill them up with. Unclear what the circles
I don't
are.
know. I mean, the best I can tell is there was something we've forgotten about with these circles. I think Biden probably had press circles during COVID. That's what I think it is. It must mean something. And because I tried to find Twitter, I'll take these things and I'll try to research them.
Right.
And I see a bunch of like MAGA people on Twitter from like 3 years ago talking about the 8 circles. And I was just like, you know what? This is your thing. I don't fucking need to know.
I don't need to go further. Yeah.
I want to play this clip because I lived in Detroit and I'm proud of living in Detroit. I couldn't imagine if I was like born and raised in Detroit, proud of being in Detroit. And this motherfucker comes in there and says this.
Whole country's going to be like, you want to know the truth? It'll be like Detroit. Our whole country will end up being like Detroit.
Hey, how about you go fuck yourself? Like, we take pride in being like Detroit. I hope the whole country can be like Detroit. We're fucking strong, resilient people that deserve better. Like, and they've worked damn hard to get a lot better. Detroit ain't nothing like it was when I lived there in 2006, and it's nothing like it was, 10 years prior to that. Like, sure, it's heydays well behind it. The people in Detroit deserve where they're at right now because they fought fucking hard to get there. And for you to look them in the eyes and say this whole country's going to be like you elitist fucking carpetbagger interloper, Alan, talk for me. That gets my blood boiling.
Man, I mean, I don't know if I can say
to their face. To their fucking face.
So, I mean, a large part of his narrative or his campaign's narrative is sort of the decline of America. We've talked about that,
But to go to a city and be like, the whole city is going to be like your shithole. I'm going to go back to my mansion on the beach.
Vote for me. It is quite the off-putting political strategy. I will agree.
I don't know
if
how
you're trying to appeal to if you're trying to appeal to a patriotic American, I don't know how saying that you suck.
You go there and you say, you know what America's going to be like? Cleveland. That's what you say in Detroit. You say it's going to be like Toledo.
Yeah.
That's what you say. I'm not joking. Like that is exact. You say America, Detroit. You guys have done an amazing job to restore this fine city. And if we don't continue with the hard work that you've put in, the whole country is going to look like Cleveland. That will get people cheering. Like that's how you fucking like. And then you go to Cleveland and you say Detroit. Come on. Like,
I mean, that sounds cynical, but it's true.
If you don't know, Clevelanders and Detroiters hate each other. Like
yes.
It is. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
It's a thing.
This is also from that meeting. This is, he announced, so this guy's constantly like, did you listen to that? I don't know if you had time. Did you listen to the Reason Roundtable where they talked about how both Trump and
I didn't get
Harris,
to that. No.
So both their tax policies are completely flawed. And, they both want to have certain tax cuts and things like that. And the thing that they're avoiding is the fact that we have a massive deficit and that, if I could summarize it, I would say this. In the 80s and 90s, they even both parties went into this idea of strangle the beast, which was if you don't provide the tax source, the tax revenue, then we won't overspend.
The government can't do stuff because it doesn't have any money to do it. Yes.
And what we found out was when you do that, we demand just as much from the government, and costs to do that continue to rise. And it's a lot harder to reinstate taxes, especially politically. So now you've underfunded it. And then the popular thing to do is to continue to underfund it by promising more and more tax cuts, right?
Well, and also
people demand more and more services while politicians are promising less and less tax revenue, which I'm fine with. But the problem is we are not controlling our spending. The solution is the opposite side. The solution is don't overspend. Don't overspend.
But so there's also there has been a back and forth, right? We've gone from Republican administration to Democratic administration to Republican administration, back and forth, right? And so when the Democrats are in power, then the Republicans say, "Oh, you're spending too much money. Look at this deficit. The country's, we're going to hell." And so then when the Republicans in power,
it's been just as much, but they cut taxes
or more. Yeah, they spend all the money and then cut taxes. Yeah. And so then, what about the deficits? You don't care now because you're in power? Okay, cool. And then so it sort of disincentivizes either side from actually taking it seriously because
and then when it comes time to pay the bills, they're like, well, let's shut down the government. It's like, no, you shouldn't have agreed to the spending.
Right. Yes.
But this is what you've been waiting for, because today I am also announcing that as part of our tax cuts, we will make interest on car loans fully deductible.
Great idea. What's that going to do in practice? What is that going to do in practice? Do you think people are going to factor into their budgets that their interest on their car loans is not there? No, you're going to continue to live up to your means. So people will spend accordingly and not spend the money on that, right? Like we are ultimate consumers in this country. Nobody's going to be like, oh, thank God we're not, it's tax deductible, my interest on my car loans. Like people are going to spend with the additional money that they had. Like it's not, and what's the effect of that? You've cut off a revenue stream to the government, which I'm sympathetic to. Like I'm sympathetic to all of the things that I talked about, except history has taught us that when you use that as your method to not fund the government, we still demand the spending anyways. I mean, without the ability to do so.
It's an interesting idea because as fewer and fewer people are homeowners and therefore cannot deduct their mortgage interest off their taxes, you're saying, look, I'm going to give you, a little taste here where, yeah, you got to have a car loan, right? So you'll be able to deduct that. However, for most people, I think you mentioned this earlier, you just take the standard deduction as opposed to itemizing it because you don't have enough time or resources.
Yeah, I just spent a year's. I bought the yearly subscription to the streaming app so that we could do this.
Right.
And I was like, I guess I'll write that off of my taxes, but every time at the end of the year when I go to do that, it's less than the standard deduction. So
right. So most people wouldn't be impacted by it anyways. But it is an interesting little carrot to dangle.
Yeah.
I understand the concept.
But it won't make a fucking
doesn't-
difference.
no, it won't do anything.
Yes. All right. They asked him if Google should be broken up, and he said the election was rigged. Do you want to hear that? Here, let me.
I've heard it.
You did? Oh, well,
Yeah.
here
We
it
can
is.
hear it.
Be breaking up.
I just haven't gotten over something the Justice Department did yesterday.
I can't get over it, man. I don't know. I can't even answer your question. I'm so distraught.
Virginia cleaned up its voter rolls and got.
Has nothing to do with Google being broken up.
Not at all.
My note for this says, "Isn't this exactly what he accused Biden of?"
And we'll force it down his throat. And we'll say, Gavin, if you don't do it, we're not giving you any of that fire money that we send you all the time for all the forest fires that you have. And we'll force.
So at the Coachella rally that he had, he said that he's not going to give California FEMA money, basically, for political reasons, which is what they're accusing. That's the whole conspiracy with what has happened in North
Yeah,
Carolina.
they're saying that Biden isn't funding the relief in North Carolina and Florida because they're all Republicans. Yeah.
At his rally last night, as we're recording this, so this is not. So this would be 2 nights.
Philadelphia Democrat.
There's a good chance you heard about this rally. I'm going to play this clip as an opportunity to talk about the rally. So this clip's kind of just kind of easing us into this subject.
And I was raised in a Philadelphia Democrat.
So he did this. It was in Oaks, Pennsylvania. You've probably heard about this. Yes, it's the one with the music at the end. We'll get to that.
Heard of it.
You would think this is brought to you by American Financing. That's because we're watching RSBN, which has just American Financing, $8.45 a month savings. Call 888-402-0299. All right, there we go.
And I was raised in a Philadelphia Democrat household, a union household. As a mother of a blended family, my top issues are the same issues that face all Americans.
This is one of the 3 questions he took from the crowd in this like multi-hour rally.
Americans. Illegal immigration hurts Black Americans. Inflation hurts Black Americans. And dangerous cities hurt Black Americans. Like my fellow Americans, my grocery bill has not gone down. Everything is still so very expensive.
I'm not going to say she's a plant, but she was very comfortable with the pause, wait for the audience speak, right?
Yeah, she was.
Okay. All right.
Everything is still so very expensive. What steps will your administration take to help American families suffering from this inflation?
Now, what do you think he's going to talk about? And are you expecting Hannibal Lecter?
Yes. Maybe, perhaps sharks. I don't know.
Great question in the sense that people don't think of grocery. You know, it sounds like not such an important word when you talk about homes and everything else, right? But more people tell me about grocery bills where the price.
So you just sound like an elitist. You're completely out of touch. Like, look, people don't think that the grocery bill is important, but people
Apparently,
are telling me.
People talk about groceries all the time. I don't get it, honestly. But
The
apparently.
price of lettuce, the price of tomatoes, they tell me. And we're going to do a lot of things. You know, our farm.
You know, the people I have go to the grocery store tell me it went up.
Yeah, the lettuce and
They do a
tomatoes
lot
is
of
just
things.
incredible.
You know, our
I don't
farmers
know.
aren't being treated properly. And we had a deal with China, and it was a great deal. I never mentioned it because once COVID came in, I said that was a bridge too far because I had a great relationship with President Xi. And he's a fierce man, and he's a man that likes China, and I understand that. But
He's a man
we
that
had
likes
a deal,
China.
and he was perfect on that deal. $50 billion he was going to buy. We were doing numbers like you wouldn't believe for the farmer. But the farmers are very badly hurt. The farmers in this country, we're going to get them straightened out. We're going to get your prices down. But you asked another question about safety and also about Black population jobs and Hispanic population, in particular, those two. So when millions of people pour into our country, they're having a devastating effect on Black families and Hispanic families more than any others. I think it's going to spread to a lot of other places. I think it's going to spread to unions. I think unions are going to have a big problem because, you know, employers are just not going to pay the price. They're going to, and it's a very bad thing that's happening. So they're coming in.
What are you going to do about this?
Coming in from jails and prisons and mental institutions, insane asylums. That's like, you know, a step above.
Again, asylums. He stopped saying asylum for a while.
Above, right?
back.
Insane asylum. And whenever I go, Hannibal Lecter, you know what I'm talking about. They always go the fake news. That's a lot of fake news back
Dude.
there too.
You should have a bingo card.
You realize he's rambling, and he's like, "Look, the fake news is in the back." That's his thing. He's been doing. He gets the crowd involved, right?
Mm-hmm.
They always mention, it's a way of demeaning. They just say, Hannibal Lecter, why?
So that also creates buy-in, right? Like, so you've taken your base and taught them that when the media is there, that you boo them and you don't trust them, right? Like people that bring the news to you.
Yeah, it creates buy-in. It creates a feeling of part of.
Like you're on board with whatever his animosity is.
Yep,
there,
you're on the
right?
bus.
Lecter, why would he mention? Well, you know why? Because he was a sick puppy, and we have sick puppies coming into our country. I figure that's a lot. That's better than wasting a lot of words. You just say Hannibal Lecter. We don't want him, but they always sort of say, why would he say that? I do it for a lot of reasons, but I do it because we are allowing some very bad people into our country.
So I guess we finally got an answer as to what the whole Hannibal Lecter thing is about. It's his shorthand for insane asylums?
For bad person, apparently?
Yeah, I guess. Okay. So I want to give you my rundown of what happened at that rally because it's not that question, right? So are you familiar with it? Like, have you been seeing the things?
I've seen some clips, yes. Yeah.
So it was held in like, it was held in I mean, it's not a small space, right?
Mhm.
But they had some air conditioning issues there, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was like a hangar or something where they had big barn doors they could open. So it starts off with people waiting for over an hour with nobody on stage. Then he took 3 questions from the audience about inflation, obviously hand-picked questions, as you can tell by the performance of the question asker. Somebody then fainted, so they played some music.
Right.
Then they answered a question about deportation, so 4 questions. Then another person fainted. They played some more music. Then he asked if anybody else would like to faint. I'm not
Didn't hear that
joking.
part. Okay.
Yeah, he was like, would anybody else like to faint? Because you could do it now. That would be really convenient, basically.
Yeah, let's get it out of the way.
Yeah. Meanwhile, these are medical events for these people, right? They had to like pause and open barn doors to get some airflow in or something like that. Then he looks at his immigration chart and he talks about how it's his favorite chart because he was looking at it when the bullet missed his head, which, Jesus Christ, thank God I didn't hit him in the head. Then he talks for 5 minutes. Then he said, who wants to hear some music? Let's make a music. I'm quoting this, okay? Who wants to hear some music? Let's make a music. Who the hell wants to hear questions anyways, right? Then they played 30 minutes of Pavarotti and then Time for Goodbye. They played YMCA, the gay cruising song.
Yes.
They played Sinead O'Connor and Hallelujah. Like his like Spotify playlist. Also, dude, like
so MSNBC, they ran like it was like a picture-in-picture where they had the video of the event after the fact had happened. Right, they knew what happened. They're playing the video in the background as the host is interviewing other people on the show, just to say, "Look, this is crazy. We're going to leave that running so you can see what happened, but we're really just going to be talking to the."
When I first saw this, I heard the music. I was like, "You guys are like."
It was
adding
funny
music
because there was a point where most of the time it was muted or it was him talking and it was lower than the guest volume,
And
so
then
you
they
can sort of
raised
hear
the
it in the
volume.
background. But there was a part where the YMCA came on and it was full volume over the guest, so you just hear YMCA. I was like, what the fuck is happening?
Have you noticed his weird dance move? Like we all know about the air dicking, but have you seen the other dance move where he like puts his arms to the side and he sort of like pivots, like he's trying to knock something off the table with his dick?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Like he's just, I'm swinging my wiener right at the table, just trying to move that sheet of paper off the edge of the. Like, it's a fun game, but it's weird to do in front of people.
It is odd, yeah.
The game or to do it in front of people?
Both.
It's a normal game, Alan.
Oh,
People
okay.
can do that. All right, I can show you.
Rather
He
not.
also at the same rally and with that same question asker. There she is, right there. Remember her?
I
He told people to vote on January 5th.
It will be, I'll tell you, if everything works out, if everybody gets out and votes on January 5th.
Just like.
Also, they're selling knives now. That's fun.
Oh yeah, they stopped doing home mortgages.
It's a
selling
Trump
knives, yeah.
combat knife.
This is not at all weird, right? Like, oh yeah, Tim Walz, it sure is weird to call them out for being fucking weird. Like, dude, they can't even do basic things of campaigning. I don't think I even have. I thought, you know what, when we talked about Coachella, one of the things I forgot to mention was that at that rally, they picked people up from a parking lot 5 miles away on buses, and they didn't arrange buses to take them back.
Yeah, I did see that. It's like,
So they can't even do the basics of a campaign. He's
Right.
stranding his supporters 5 miles from their cars. He can't pull off a question and answer at a town hall rally. He's like, add to that news that we've just found out that they don't even have a fucking ground game anymore. Like, we've talked about how they don't have a ground game, but then I told you that it's being supplemented by Elon Musk and this like Save America type pack, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they found out that they don't have good tracking software on the canvassers, and it appears that those canvassers are given a route and they just have to go run that route, and it shows up on the GPS that they ran it, but they can't get the fine detail of how much time they're spending and knocking on doors and talking to people. So they're just like driving by and throwing the like pamphlets out the window
And getting paid for it.
and getting paid for the full route. Yeah.
That's a great
And, like,
scam.
I know, of course it is. That's what happens when you fire everybody who has any experience at that,
Or who
replace it with
cares.
your relatives, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
hire. Is that not what happened? Didn't he
That's
replace it with
exactly
his
what happened.
relatives?
Yeah.
And then hire, a billionaire who's out of touch and thinks he's got, a data solution to everything. This, like, I have no doubt that if you give Elon Musk, he could fix that problem with time.
Mhm.
But the first round of it is this bullshit. And he's doing it 3 months, 2 months, 25 days before the election, right?
Yes. Yes. Very close.
Getting tired of talking about
So
these guys.
bizarre.
I got a couple more clips, but I'm feeling tired of it. I'm sure the audience is taxed as well. I will play a clip that's only a minute long that I trimmed down from 3 minutes. How's that for fair? So
perfect.
this is
Perfect.
JD Vance refusing to answer
Donald Trump.
So this was a 3-minute clip. I have it to a minute 7. So he got asked 5 times if he would, if Trump lost the 2020 election.
Yeah, this was the Sunday New York Times interview.
Sunday New York Times interview, yeah.
Yes.
The 2020 election.
Let me ask you a question. Is it okay that big technology companies censored the Hunter Biden laptop story? Which
Senator Vance, I'm going to
I cut out time there. He went on and she stopped him and asked the question again.
ask you again. Did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election?
did big technology companies censor a story?
Senator
I think
Vance.
that's the
I cut it off, right? Okay, I'm not making you sit through this.
story. I think
Senator
that's the
Vance,
question.
I'm going to ask you again. Did Donald Trump lose the
And
2020
I've answered
election?
your question with another question. You answer my question and I'll answer your
Is that how that works?
That's not
I
how
get
that
to
works.
ask you an unrelated question that you, the interview, will answer. Like, no, we ask you questions for the people to learn.
Right.
I have asked this question repeatedly. It is something that is very important for the American people to know. There is no proof, legal or otherwise, that Donald Trump did not lose the 2020 election.
You're repeating a slogan rather than engaging with what I'm saying.
Senator, would
What it is a slogan to ask that? Like, there was a whole fucking riot about this. Like, like she's not getting up there and being like, "Hey, Black Lives Matter." That's not a slogan.
No, it's not a
Did
slogan.
your boss lose? Yeah.
Yeah,
And
did
this
he
is
lose?
painful because what is happening here is he knows the answer to the question.
Yes.
He can't say it because he's contorted himself into someone that is a supplicant in front of succulent,
Sycophant,
Succulent.
supplicant. Yeah.
in front of his boss. So he can't say what he knows is true, and he
Right.
has to spin it. And it's painful to watch because think of him as you want. He is a smart man, and he's
Sure.
made himself to look stupid for Donald Trump. Like, that's the thing at the end of the day that I say all the time. I can't believe that these people are willing to stand in line and sacrifice everything that they can stand for Donald Trump.
would you have certified the election in 2020? Yes or no?
I've said that I would have voted against certification because of the concern that I just raised.
The answer is no. And the last question, will you support the election results this time and commit to a peaceful transfer of power?
Well, first of all, of course, we commit to a peaceful transfer of power. We are going to have a peaceful transfer of power. I, of course, believe that peaceful transfer of power is going to make Donald Trump the next president.
The only thing I would say is I don't know that him particularly, he isn't doing it just because he's, drank the Kool-Aid and bought into everything that Trump is. He's doing it because he wants access to power and he sees this as his best path forward. And Trump ain't going to live forever, and he can take that mantle afterwards and run with it. And that's so he decided to sell his soul for that power because that's how much he wants it. And it sucks, and it's obvious to see if you're paying attention. But man, the attraction of power does things to people, man.
That letterhead, right?
Yeah. The Helvetica with the raised font. Man,
it's called Cillian Braille.
Yes. I got reservations at Dorsia for next Saturday, dude.
I have to return some videotapes. It wouldn't have been hard for him to say that Trump won in 2020 if that's what he thought, right? Like, let's look at the inverse of that.
Yeah.
Like, if he's putting all the effort into not saying no, and he
could have just said he
answer
won.
was yes, he could have just said yes. And you said did you insert that wand there on purpose?
No. It is a strange box he's put himself in, though, because you're here because you got in the box and closed the top. Like, that's why you're here. Like, what the fuck? It's very odd. Yeah.
Yeah. You made a weird sound. Did you hear it too?
I moved my my boom.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just new software. I'm just getting used to things. I have a clip from the Trump movie. Well, no, I don't. There's a Trump movie that came out. Have you heard about this? Have you seen this? Have you heard about this?
I think I have heard about this.
It's called The Apprentice. That guy from The Winter Soldier.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he plays Trump. I think
actually Roy Cohn, I think, plays a pretty significant figure in that movie.
Oh, and yeah, I'm like, that man's dead. He's been dead since.
No, in the movie, because it starts with Trump very early on. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, that's why it's called The Apprentice, right? Like, he's Roy Cohn's apprentice in that way.
Yep.
I think is the implication. I haven't seen it.
I haven't either, but I heard him interview. He did an interview on the New Yorker. The director or writer of that movie.
Got it.
Yeah.
Bob Cesca saw it, and I will say, trigger warning: we're going to deal with the R word here, not 3% of the population. The R word, the other R word. And this is so just trigger warning in that regard. There's a revelation in this movie that's been implied quite a bit, and this is a movie, so we don't have to say this is true. This is depicted in the film. I think Bob Cesca, it's not his worst choice of words. I'll be happy to play some of his other choice of words, but I think he might have better phrased this. Let me play that for you right here.
Movie, and I'll give you a trigger warning. We see Donald Trump raping Ivana on the floor of their Trump Tower penthouse. And that was one of the many things. Sorry, spoiler warning, but I know a lot of people appreciate the warning. Yeah. You'll see it coming when it starts.
You get it down.
It was a poor
is so
choice of
great,
words.
and my boat is so small. Oh no, there's shit in my mouth. Booge and splatter and blood all over.
So it's interesting, actually. That interview of the writer director of that movie, he asked him about that scene specifically, and so what he said was that Ivana did make a legal claim that this happened immediately after it happened when they were going through a divorce. She later retracted it.
God. Sorry. You couldn't hear it, but a clip started playing.
Oh,
say that again.
So Ivana did say that happened, and then they were going through a divorce. It appears that pressure was put on her. She retracted the statement and said something different later. Which, if you listen to it,
her in a golf course.
Which, if you listen to it, it doesn't seem as genuine as it just seems as
the claim doesn't sound as genuine as the retraction.
Right. And so the writer was like, look, this happened. This is what she said immediately after the event, where it probably would have been the most honest. And so I chose to leave it in the movie. And he actually had trouble shopping the movie around to various like streaming services or production companies because nobody wanted to touch it. They were afraid of retribution from Trump.
Oh yeah. He's fighting like hell to get it not.
He sent them a cease and desist like immediately after it was screened at like Cannes or whatever.
But it's in theaters right now.
Yeah, so they had to fight. He had to fight. It took him years to get it out, but his belief is that
Got
that's
it out just before the election, though. I'm sure that's coincidental.
Perhaps not. But he fought pretty hard to get it out there. It's a good interview if you check it out. New Yorker Radio Hour.
Okay, I'll check that out. It's on my list. I was listening to John Ziegler's podcast, friend of the show, John Ziegler, and he was talking about
journalism guy.
the subservient nature of the vice president to the president and how emasculating it must be for Tim Walz. Here, I'll let you know what, I'm not doing it justice. Let's let him talk.
Oh, it's not presenting.
It's so annoying because it's so loud. I'm going to turn it down and I'll play it again. Ready?
Okay. Yeah.
What is Tim Walz's current job? His current job is to be completely and totally, in every possible way, subservient to a woman.
Why is he so angry?
That is literally
Oh, you missed the best part.
a woman of color, even.
Oh.
That is literally like the worst nightmare for men in general and white men in particular.
Hey, speak for yourself, John.
Is it? I don't think it is. Wow.
I think you can go to Pornhub and figure out some histories and find out this is,
I think Google could even answer that question. They can't answer much anymore. So, yeah.
Let's follow this logic, though, right? So he's saying vice presidents are subservient. If you take the sexual fears of his out of that, right?
Jesus Christ. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Dude, can you believe that clip?
I can't. Actually, it's still
I'm
blowing my
moving on.
mind right
Can you
now. I'm
believe
trying
that
to,
shit?
yeah.
I don't want to play it again, but I want to play it again.
I
I'm
know.
gonna play it again.
I'm still mentally recovering from it.
If you follow the logic and you take away the inflammatory part of it, he's saying that the vice president is completely subservient to the president,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't think that's true. And case in point, one of his biggest things to complain about is that Harris pulled a coup on Joe Biden, which doesn't sound exactly subservient to me. So, like,
It doesn't. Yeah.
no, it doesn't. Yeah, yeah. I have all kinds of kink phrases that I've heard of that I was wondering.
Sure.
I think no, I don't need to. I need to be weird here. There's a clip. This show's going too long. There's a clip where Republicans can't understand the name of the podcast. Call Her Daddy. Do you want to hear it real quick? It's a good. You know what? It's a good palate cleanser, and it's on brand from that.
No reward for being stupid. And then finally, you can't make this stuff up. Finally, the last couple of days, the vice president goes on some show called Call Her Daddy, or
Does that guy sound familiar? Is this guy?
this was my ass. Call your daddy, or who's
Call
your
me
daddy,
daddy.
or something. Call me daddy. I like who's your daddy.
Still didn't get it.
And among other things, she's talking about tampons.
What
I got a new strap-on harness today. I pulled out of him and kissed him while he masturbated. I put some lube on and got him on his knees.
Like my favorite part is they couldn't understand that the whole thing centered around. If it was any of the things they tried to say that they knew weren't the name of it because they had previously heard the name of it, which confused them, they
Right.
would be able to say it. But they can't wrap their head around a title of a podcast being called Call Her Daddy. They're like, oh, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't fit within my worldview. Right? Is that not like
100%? And by the way, that podcast has been around for years and is a super
Years.
successful podcast.
Yes.
They're on Barstool. They've been there forever.
Yes. Yeah. Now this is short. I like how voice to text did this for me. Kayleigh McEnany, former Trump White House spokesperson Kayleigh McEnany. She has a friend who talked to a black person, Alan.
Oh.
Don't believe me? Here.
So, look, I heard yesterday from a friend who texted me and said that he was talking to a black man in North Carolina. And this black man said, I'm going to vote for Donald Trump.
Well, I think I have a sound for that. Hold on, if you'll allow me, Alan.
I have a friend who
I
talked
had
to
black
a black
friends
man.
growing up.
I have a
Yeah.
friend who talks to a black man in North Carolina. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Cool. Interesting.
What are the odds?
Like when you're that white with that blonde hair, it's just like really weird when you say that, like.
It does come off as odd, yes.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to some of the best of the left. This is Karine Jean-Pierre. I like this one because it's actually I just don't like her. I'm sorry. Like, it's too late in the show for me to mask this. I fucking don't like her. Like I just expect better from when you're the press secretary for the White House to not just be like, how the fuck did you end up here? Here.
You're pretty consistent. You don't often speculate about hypotheticals, but today, on more than one occasion, you've said that if it's true.
This is in context of the allegation in Woodward's book that Trump had been talking to Putin. And her exact words were, if it's true, it's bad, blah, 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 something like that, right?
Sure.
And she keeps saying, yes, if it's true. And he's saying, well, if it's true, like if it's not true, why are you speculating? You've criticized me for speculating in my questions in the past. A little bit of an axe to grind, sounds like, from his side, but valid way to phrase that, don't you think?
Sure. I mean,
President Trump spoke with Vladimir Putin, then that's concerning.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, why is this administration willing to speculate about that in particular?
I said, if it's true,
Speculation.
it's speculation, but if it's true, because I knew, right? We all knew that you all will have questions about for us about the national security concerns, about our thoughts about this, and so if it is indeed true, right? We're talking about President Putin here. We see what's happening in Ukraine, Russia's aggression in Ukraine. That's about democracy. That's about Ukrainians fighting for their freedom. And we've heard the former president say and lobby against the funding for Ukraine. So yeah, if it is true, it is indeed concerning because we're talking about our national security here. So we want it to be very, very clear. And so I'll leave it there.
And I think you probably shouldn't be talking about it if you don't know if it's true. And especially if you're the one on record saying you shouldn't be speculating with your questions.
I disagree. I think that the reason she's hypothesizing is because it's in a best-selling fucking book by Bob Woodward, who has broken all kinds of political stories for decades. So yeah, she's not.
Well, then don't say if it's true.
No, but she's not. She doesn't know it to be true. It's in a best-selling book by a guy who's broken a lot of really important political stories. So she's got to address it. It's the elephant in the room. How can she not address it? I think she's totally within bounds of saying if what he wrote is true in that book, then, yeah, we're worried about it. I don't see a problem with that. And it's different than him hypothesizing about something that's completely out of the ether than something that's in like, do you understand how that's different?
I think I would avoid it.
I don't think it's some sort of
gotcha.
Yeah, or I don't think it's I'm applying the rules to you that I'm not going to apply to me. I think those aren't the same things.
It's kind of nice when you can change it for something that you want to talk about, though. I mean,
was she asked about it or did she volunteer it? I don't know.
Yeah, I guess I didn't see it happen before. I guess that would change that, and I'm looking at it in the most negative light because I don't like her. Yes. Okay. Okay. Let's talk about the big thing that happened on the left. That is the most funny thing to talk about this week.
Okay.
The right. So Tim Walz did here, let me load this up. This is going to be Fox talking. So Tim Walz did a press thing where he took his shotgun out and was doing hey, look at me, I'm a hunter, I'm a man, I know how to use a gun, and then stumbled while loading it. And I've said this before on the show before, if you own a shotgun, you should practice walking and loading your shotgun. You should that sounds so basic. You're I could do that. It's you should try that because I thought I could do that. And then I was whoa, I should practice this. And then I practiced that and I feel confident in it. In fact, there's techniques that you should do to do it. And there's a couple different
that way you don't shoot your friends in the face like Dick Cheney.
Alan, shut up. That's my punchline. If you'll just wait a moment. Okay.
Sorry.
So I will say, when you watch this video, Tim Walz struggles here. Let's play this before Alan gives away all my jokes.
He's got, it's not a new gun. He says he's owned it for quite some time. He's got a nice gun.
This is a Winchester.
And as you'll see in this video, which we're about to play for you, he has some trouble with the gun. Watch.
So if you watch this video, he's trying to load the gun while it's in its normal position, in the position that you would take it up to your shoulder to fire from.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not walking, but in this example that I'm giving, you'd flip that over and throw him in through there like that, and then throw one into and throw one in through the side. That's just decent technique. I'm not even like I mean, I feel nervous talking about guns because I know people know more about than I do, right? But like, I know the one thing you shouldn't be doing if you're uncomfortable with this is trying to put the bullet in from the underside and push it up and forward while you're already struggling with it. Like, flip that bitch over and slam that shit in. Like, it's not fucking hard to do. And so here's the thing. So we've already seen about 3 seconds of this video. I'm going to play the entire rest of the problem.
Okay.
400. I bought it when I was shooting a lot of trap because it has a kind of their patented thing, a kickoff. So when you get old, it doesn't hurt your shoulder as much.
He's already resolved the problem. So like, they've exaggerated this. It was about 5 seconds of an awkward moment. It's not like this one actually really kind of bugs me because it's not good. Like, when you're saying like, hey, I know you guys on the left or on the right think everybody on the left doesn't know what they're doing. Look at me. And then you are clumsy with your firearm.
Yeah.
That's also not unheard of, right? Like, it's really not unheard of to be like, I'm going to keep talking. I'm going to sort of struggle with this, but I know how to end up loading my gun, right?
Right. Also,
And-
there's some element probably of a little bit of stage fright of just being like,
Of
you know,
course.
you're on
Yeah,
camera,
of
people are
course.
watching
Dude,
you. and
I
so-
don't like handling my gun at a range where there's a lot of people around just because
Yeah.
I don't like thinking that people are
You
watching.
feel like
me
the
do
eyes
it.
are on you. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, I don't not like it to the extent that I can't do it, but there's a certain amount of nerves there,
Sure.
And like, I don't. Maybe if I shot more, I wouldn't feel that way. But I mean, I feel like I've shot plenty. Yeah, but like at the end of the day, I think my takeaway from this, which Alan already spoiled, it's not very vice presidential of him. If you're not shooting your best friend in the face with your shotgun, you're just not going to make it as vice president.
It's true. It's true. It's a flaw. It's a character flaw. Perhaps he can overcome. We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Maybe one day he'll shoot his best friend and he'll lie to cops for him. God, that's so crazy that happened, right?
It is. It is.
So imagine, no, sir. No, it was my fault, actually. Mr. Cheney's an excellent shot. I must have forgotten my orange temporarily.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got in the way of his shotgun. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I shouldn't have been standing there.
Shouldn't have been there.
I was listening. Did you listen to the Daily this morning?
Yeah.
Talking about the blue states that will determine the control of Congress. They were talking about some niche congressional districts that may affect whether Democrats might actually be able to sway the House. I think a lot of attention is on whether Democrats can keep the Senate, but they might win the House and they might not by some tricks that the Democrats have fell into. And the short version is they were too successful in their blue states. And it's kind of the nature of power is that people can leverage your being in power against you. Right.
Yeah.
Is that-
Specifically California and New York.
Yes. Even more specifically with one of those cases, the argument against the Democrat is some pictures surfaced of him that are unfortunate, let's say, in our day and age of wokeness, Alan, thanks to woke.
Sure.
Okay, here we go.
And contentious race for months. There's been some surprises. Some of them brought by you yourself. Indeed, earlier this month, I got a hold of some photographs of Lawler when he was a college student in the early 2000s, dressing up for Halloween in blackface. He was a Michael Jackson super fan. He still is. He even went out as an 18-year-old to Michael Jackson's criminal trial in California to attend it. But obviously, the imagery of blackface is very charged.
All right. So now we're going to pretend like dressing up like Michael Jackson in the 2000s is blackface. Woke has gone way too fucking far. Like, you're telling me you're saying, oh, I'm Michael Jackson in the year 2000. I'm blackface. Like, get the fuck out of here.
That's some dedication too, man. Going to the trial, you're like, oh man, I'm a super
That is
fan.
pretty wild. That is pretty wild. But come on. It's not blackface.
It's not. No.
I do refuse to blow this up. I'm going to play this for you. This is probably the most cringy thing that happened this last week. Did you see Kamala Harris go on? Do you still take the Colbert Report, Alan?
It's not the Colbert Report anymore, but
that's right.
It's
Yeah,
the Late
Stephen
Show
Colbert.
with Stephen Colbert.
Yeah.
I watch clips. I don't often watch the entire show.
Did you see Colbert saying people talk about having a beer with the president, so I'll have a beer with you? Did you see this?
Yes.
This is so fucking uncomfortable. Guys, sit through this. I'm not going to blow this up.
you first became the nominee and named Tim Walz as your vice president nominee, people were calling it the vibe election. All the vibes were all good. But elections, I think, are won on vibes because one of the old saws is they just want somebody they can have a beer with. So would you like to have a beer with me so I can tell people what that's like? Okay. Now, we asked ahead of time because I can't just be giving a drink to the Vice President of the United States without asking. You asked for Miller High Life. You asked for Miller High Life.
Do you think that's true?
No,
Do you
I
think there's
wouldn't.
any chance that she's like, oh, I can have a beer? Well, let's definitely make sure it's Miller High Life.
That's the worst beer to pick.
I don't know. Rolling Rock was on the table.
Hey, don't speak ill of Rolling Rock.
You like your little green bottles?
You know what? It's good with breakfast. Oh.
I feel like I can't get drunk on Rolling Rock.
That's why it's good
Like,
with breakfast. Yeah.
It's okay. It's a good start.
Okay, the last time I had beer was at a baseball game with Doug.
Blow my fight. I got a drawer right here. Alan, keep that drawer locked. Keep that drawer locked.
Keep it locked.
She's like, do you believe that? I don't believe the beer story. I don't believe that. I don't believe the type of beer. I don't believe that. I was at a baseball game with my husband celebrating America, and that's the last time I had a beer. I had a hot dog, and there was Cracker Jacks, and I caught a home run. I'm an American.
Okay, so
Okay, cheers.
There you go. Ooh. That tastes like the beautiful city of Milwaukee,
The
Wisconsin.
champagne of beers.
There you go.
Oh my god.
So fucking cringe.
It's
okay.
pretty
I'm done.
cringe.
I'm done with that. I will tell you what she went on to say. He went on to ask her a question like, "Who's your favorite billionaire?" And before she could answer, he said Oprah. And then she's like, "No." He's like, "You can't say Oprah." And she said, "The real billionaires should be the teachers and the firefighters."
The R word is rolling around in my head.
Of course she did.
I'll make this brief. I won't play all the clips in it, but I got an element, so I got to play it.
It's another battle in the culture wars. Oh, not the culture wars. They're worried about a culture war. Culture wars. Stop with the culture wars.
I got 3 clips in here, but I don't want to play all 3. We'll end the show shortly. I got 2 clips for you, okay? Do you want to do let's play this first one. We'll skip the second one. First one is West Virginia special legislative session, which won't shock you, but should.
Introduced a resolution during our special session that you need to know about. Hi, Delegate Kayla Young. I'm in the West Virginia House. You need to know about House Concurrent Resolution 203 that was introduced this week during our special session. It was introduced by just a handful of delegates, and it is about the state of West Virginia not recognizing an illegitimate election. This resolution starts out decently normal, where it talks about elections needing to be free from coercion, free from influence, free from all the things, because we all want free and fair elections. And then it then goes on to say, the federal government under the current Democrat-led regime has utterly failed and continues to fail in a suspicious manner in its absolute duty to adequately protect the Republican nominee for president. Then it gets really, really wild and says, be it resolved by the legislature of West Virginia that the sovereign state of West Virginia,
sovereign state,
or not, declares it will not recognize an election for president if such election is enabled by illegal or fraudulent acts.
Is she West? I'm going to ask you to invent a phrase here. Is she West Virginia hot?
Yes.
Okay.
I was
Further
thinking the same thing.
West Virginia will not recognize any election of the Democrat candidate for president during the 2024 election cycle if the Republican presidential or vice presidential candidate is assassinated.
It's kind of weird that they're not saying we will not elect a president if the opposing party was assassinated. They're
Right.
only
It's ours.
talking. Yeah, it's only talking about the Republican. Okay.
Seriously injured during an assassination attempt, incarcerated, de facto eliminated or barred from the ballot in any states, or is the subject of legal actions that preclude their effective campaigning. Huh?
So in the middle of that was seriously injured in an assassination attempt, and if they've passed this, that's already happened, which means they have it on paper where they can, based on their internal documentation.
Yeah, interesting to see if that will hold up like in court going forward. There was a Georgia ruling, which I'll talk with.
You want to talk about? Let's talk about it here. I'd rather talk about it with you.
I don't have all of the deets yet. I'm hoping that Lawfare does something on it, but I'm sure they will. Anna Bowers are on the case, I'm sure. But so essentially, Georgia has been doing some weird stuff with their election boards, and essentially saying, well, if a member of that board, if they're not sure about a certain result,
No.
of a
We talked about here on the show. It's not that. It's that people down to the county level can be like, I'm suspicious of this. We're not going to certify our local number, which means we can hold up the entire state number.
Then the whole state can't do it. The whole
And
board
then
can't do it.
somebody at the state level said, at their state election board said, no, that is not your authority. You are actually a rubber stamp. The people that will look into this are the people at the authority level above you.
I think it went to the courts, right? A judge said that.
No, what I'm saying is on the day of the election, they don't have the right to say that.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. What were you clarifying? Maybe I misunderstood you. I do that.
I lost you for a second. I don't know. I didn't catch the last few seconds.
What was going on was that the way it was set up by their like 5-party board,
election board, yes,
was that the county, the district level could hold up the entire state level by not approving their individual district
without even having any proof, just a vibe that it was like, I don't know, this seems sus.
Reason to be suspicious. Yeah.
Right.
And what came out today was that, no, you are a rubber stamp. The people that can look into this and actually withhold that from being certified are at the layers above you. You don't have
any investigative power.
Yeah, your job is to count the number and report a number. That is your job.
Yes.
It has to work that way at some point. And then there's layers of investigation above that. Yes, yeah.
Right.
Okay. Florida health officials have threatened local TV stations for airing a deceptive and dangerous abortion ballot ad, which they say falsely portrays abortion laws in Florida. You know what? I don't want to play it anyways. It's a whole negative vibe. I got this clip I added to Culture Wars. This is JD Vance trying to sane wash the
JP Mandel.
JD Mandel.
You know, I think J.D. Vance is weird.
That's not it.
JP, right? J.D. Mandel.
So I think like a month ago, we dispelled the rumors that there are gangs there's Venezuelan gangs in Aurora that like running
taking over like apartment buildings. Yeah.
Here he is just lying to people on This Week.
Played some other comments about migrants, including in Aurora, in Colorado, where Trump said the city had been invaded and conquered by Venezuelan gangs.
I will rescue Aurora and every town that has been invaded and conquered. These towns have been conquered. Explain that to your governor. He doesn't have a clue.
A Republican.
The Republican mayor of the city said,
it's a Republican governor, by the way.
Flatly, the city and state have not been taken over or invaded or occupied by migrant gangs. So do you support Donald Trump making those claims that the Republican mayor says were grossly exaggerated and have hurt the city's identity and sense of safety? I understand what you're saying, that some people left behind, but he's making these statements that the mayor is flat out disputing.
Well, Martha, you just said the mayor said they were exaggerated.
Grossly exaggerated.
That means there's got to be some element of truth here. And of course, President Trump was actually in Aurora, Colorado, talking to people on the ground. And what we're hearing, of course, Martha, is that people are terrified by what has happened with some of these Venezuelan gangs.
Senator Vance, I'm going to stop you because I know exactly what happened.
Martha.
I'm going to stop you. The incidents were limited to a handful of apartment complexes, and the mayor said our dedicated police officers have acted on those concerns. A handful of problems.
Not to mention, those were all slumlords.
Yeah,
and we're happy to see the media run with it rather than them being at fault for their.
Yeah, it was a diversion from their shitty landlords. Yeah.
Only, Martha, do you hear yourself? Only a handful of apartment complexes in America were taken over by Venezuelan gangs, and Donald Trump is
not
the
taken
problem.
over.
Kamala Harris's open border. Americans are so fed up with what's going on, and they have every right to be. And I really find this exchange, Martha, sort of interesting because you seem to be more focused with nitpicking everything that Donald Trump has said rather than acknowledging that apartment complexes in the United States of America are being taken over by violent gangs.
We played some other comments about migrants, including in Aurora, in Colorado, where Trump said the city had been invaded and conquered by Venezuelan gangs.
I will rescue. Did it start over again?
It started over. Yeah. But
this is our last clip. Sorry for kind of going out on a recycled thing.
They weren't taken over. There were some incidents. That's very different than what they were trying to portray. It's these it's like Haitian style neighborhoods where the gangs just took over and it's lawless. That's not what happened at all.
You can tell this one's such bullshit because in the age of this shit taking off like that, this one just didn't. Like it fizzled, and like it almost is like a little bit of like whatever the opposite of a dog whistle is. Like somebody in our hidden track, I was talking about how I like being an Americanist in Americanist collabs, even when they're ones I don't agree with because it draws people out of the woodwork. Some guy was just like, we got, prison gangs taking over entire cities. I'm like, why don't you just tell me that you get all of your news from Donald Trump's mouth? Like it just would save you time. You don't have to write all those words down. Like,
incredible.
Yeah. I'm going to go out of here. I'm getting ready to hit the last button here for the end of show sound. It's a little bit of a zinger. I got this from Buzz Burbank, but it's too good not to repeat here. It's a news story that I don't know if it's going to show up in the headline show. And I'm not going to be here for the headline show, Alan. Did you see, Boeing's been on strike, right, Alan?
Yeah.
Boeing's been on strike. You see, in the midst of this strike and declining profits, Boeing decided to show 1,700 employees the door.
No.
Or at least where the door used to be.
I love America. Y'all let me in this damn house.
Oh, how about that?
Come in the name of peace.
LMFAO.
So what in the world is this?
Trump's pee-pee.
Why would you say something that stupid?
I come without explanations or solutions.
See you next time.
I'm a very sexy lady, cat turd. I will not suffer this harlot.
How great! An anti-American Marxist!
Ted Cruz, go fuck yourself.
Read the news.
China is asshole!
God bless the United States.
Now this is
Podcasting.
All right, dude. Drive safe.
Cheers. That was fun, man. I'll see you next week.